Doa.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Ya Allah, sesungguhnya Engkaulah Tuhan yang mempunyai kebesaran dan keagungan, yang memerintah dan mentadbir alam sekalian. Tiada berlaku sesuatu melainkan dengan kehendak dan kekuasaan daripada-Mu jua. Kepada Engkaulah sebenar-benarnya tempat kami meletakkan harapan dan memohon pertolongan. Ya Allah, apalah kiranya dengan kemurahan-Mu Engkau anugerahkan kepada kami sebaik-baik ilham dan fikiran, dan berikanlah kami sebaik-baik pimpinan untuk menjalankan tugas dan kewajipan kami. Mudahkan kepada kami segala kerumitan dalam menyelesaikan persoalan-persoalan yang diperbahaskan di dalam sidangan kami ini, dan sampaikanlah kami kepada kata sepakat dan tujuan-tujuan yang muktamad demi untuk kepentingan dan kebaikan negara. Seterusnya, kepada Engkaulah juga kami harapkan agar segala usaha dan cita-cita kerajaan dalam rancangan-rancangan pembangunannya akan berhasil dan berjaya untuk membawa kemakmuran, keadilan dan kebahagiaan kepada rakyat seluruhnya. Amin.
Pemasyuran oleh Tuan Speaker.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Selamat pagi dan salam sejahtera. Ahli-ahli yang berhormat, bersyukur kita ke hadrat Ilahi kerana dengan limpah kurnianya maka kita dapat berkumpul lagi di Mesyuarat Kedua Bagi Penggal Kelima Dewan Undangan Negeri Sarawak ke-18 atau lebih dikenali sebagai Persidangan Belanjawan. Saya mengucapkan selamat datang dan terima kasih ke atas kehadiran ahli-ahli yang berhormat. Persidangan kita akan berlangsung selama 5 hari mulai hari ini 9 hingga 13 November 2020. Semoga kita dapat bersidang dalam suasana yang muhibah dan penuh tata tertib. Ahli-ahli yang berhormat dan semua yang hadir ke persidangan kali ini, kita masih lagi berdepan dengan pandemik COVID-19. Maka marilah kita bersama-sama mengambil langkah-langkah keselamatan kesihatan yang optimum seperti yang digariskan oleh Kementerian Kesihatan. Kementerian Kesihatan Malaysia seperti diwajibkan bagi penggunaan pelitup muka, face mask, penggunaan hand sanitizers dan penjarakan social distancing, iaitu terdapat ruang sekurang-kurangnya 1 meter di antara kita. Saya memohon perhatian semua ahli-ahli yang berhormat bahawa pemakaian pelitup muka, face mask, adalah diwajibkan pada setiap masa di dalam Dewan dan hanya dibuka sekiranya Yang Berhormat hendak berucap. Ahli-ahli yang berhormat dan semua yang hadir di persidangan ini, sekali lagi ingin saya menasihatkan kepada semua untuk sentiasa mematuhi standard operating procedure agar kita dapat mengekapkan penularan wabak COVID-19. Terima kasih. Bagi Dewan yang mulia ini, saya telah mengambil inisiatif dengan memasang penghadap sinar transparent barriers bagi menetapkan jarak fizikal dan sosial di antara setiap meja tempat duduk ahli-ahli yang berhormat dan ketua-ketua jabatan di dalam Dewan ini untuk mengurangkan risiko jangkitan dan penularan wabak virus COVID-19. Di samping itu juga, pihak Dewan yang mulia ini ada menyediakan sebuah rehal meja kayu bagi setiap ahli yang berhormat di dalam Dewan ini. Ia adalah untuk meletakkan teks ucapan yang berhormat semasa berucap. Messengers akan membuat demonstrasi mengenai cara menarik dan menolak penghadang tersebut dan juga menunjukkan cara penggunaan rehal kayu meja yang disediakan. Sila messengers buat demonstrasi. Jangan dipecah. Don't break it. Ahli yang berhormat, Dewan yang mulia ini juga mengucapkan takniah kepada ahli-ahli yang berhormat seperti berikut yang telah dikurniai dengan darjah-darjah kebesaran negeri sempena sambutan perayaan Hari Jadi ke-84 Tuan yang terutama yang di-Persatuan Negeri Sarawak pada 10 Oktober 2020 yang lepas. Yang berhormat Dato' Amar Michael Manyin, Anak Jaung, Menteri Pendidikan, Sains dan Penyelidikan Teknologi dan Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N21 Terbeda. Dan yang berhormat Dato' Amar Haji Muhammad Ali Mahmud, Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N17 Takan. Kedua-dua ahli yang berhormat telah dikurniai darjah utama yang amat mulia Bintang Kenyalang Sarawak, Dato' Amar Bintang Kenyalang, DA, yang membawa gelaran Dato' Amar. Yang berhormat Dato' Sri Ambrose Belikau Anturan, Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N62 Katibas, yang dikurniakan darjah yang amat mulia Bintang Sarawak, Panglima Negeri Bintang Sarawak, PNBS, yang membawa gelaran Datuk Seri. Yang berhormat Datuk Hajah Rozi bin Haji Yunus, Menteri Muda, Wanita, Keluarga dan Pembangunan Kanak-kanak dan Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N71 Bekenu, yang dikurniakan darjah utama yang amat mulia Bintang Kenyalang Sarawak, Panglima Bintang Kenyalang PGBK, yang membawa gelaran Datuk. Yang berhormat Encik Muhammad Razi bin Sitam, Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N35 Saribas, dan yang berhormat Encik Jefferson Jamid Anak Unya, Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N63 Bukit Goran. Kedua-dua yang berhormat telah dikurniakan darjah yang amat mulia Bintang Sarawak, Johan Bintang Sarawak, JBS. Yang berhormat Encik Alexander Anak Vincent, Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N49 Ngemah. Yang berhormat Insinyur Low Ki Chiang, Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N13 Batu Kitang. Dan yang berhormat Encik Syafi'i bin Ahmad, Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N43 Daro. Ketiga-tiga yang berhormat telah dikurniakan darjah utama yang amat mulia Bintang Kenyalang Sarawak, Johan Bintang Sarawak, JBK. Honourable members, understanding Order 12, bracket 1 and bracket 2, government business shall take precedence over private members' business, and government business shall be set down in such a manner as the government thinks fit and communicate to the Secretary of the Dewan Undangan Negeri. 4 days, that is, today, tomorrow, Wednesday and Thursday, are set aside for daily question time. Wednesday and Thursday shall be devoted to debate on the budget. The Honourable Chief Minister and Honourable Deputy Chief Minister's replies shall be on Friday, 13th November 2020.
Pertanyaan-pertanyaan bagi jawapan-jawapan lisan.
Yang berhormat Insinyur Adelaide Wu, N24 Sadong Jaya.
Terima kasih, Dato' Amar Speaker. Allow me to unmask myself. Soalan saya nombor 1. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Yang Berhormat Dato' Amar Tuan Speaker. Untuk makluman ahli yang berhormat bagi Sadong Jaya, Kerajaan Sarawak sentiasa mengutamakan pekerja tempatan dalam membuka peluang pekerjaan di setiap peringkat dan sektor. Syarikat dan perusahaan yang beroperasi di Sarawak adalah dikehendaki untuk memberi keutamaan pada pekerja rakyat tempatan yang layak untuk mengisi jawatan ditawarkan. Bagi syarikat yang ingin mengambil pekerja asing, hendaklah terlebih dahulu membuka peluang pekerjaan tersebut kepada rakyat tempatan melalui iklan, advertisement. Dan iklan itu adalah dalam surat khabar tempatan. Sekiranya tidak ada sambutan daripada rakyat tempatan, baharulah syarikat berkenaan dibenarkan untuk mengambil pekerja asing. Usaha ini turut disokong melalui pelbagai program karnival kerjaya yang dianjurkan dari masa ke semasa bagi memudahkan pekerja tempatan mencari dan memohon peluang pekerjaan. Pada tahun 2019, sebanyak 14 program karnival kerjaya telah dianjur dengan jumlah penyertaan daripada 252 majikan dan 15,437 kekosongan jawatan ditawarkan. Manakala pada tahun 2020, yakni Januari hingga September, sebanyak 13 program karnival telah diadakan dengan penyertaan 90 majikan dan 13,000 kekosongan jawatan. Sekian, terima kasih.
Terima kasih Honorable Minister di atas jawapan itu tadi. Namun begitu, saya ada 2 soalan tambahan. Yang pertama, adakah kerajaan negeri ada bercadang untuk melaksanakan dasar job security bagi graduan yang menganggur seperti yang dilaksanakan juga di beberapa negara maju? Dan soalan saya yang kedua ialah, adakah kerajaan negeri mempunyai pengkalan data mengenai pekerja berkemahiran tinggi yang tertentu di Sarawak? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Sebagai maklumat tambahan, tenaga kerja mengikut industri pertanian 271,000. Saya pilih kenderaan bermotor dan motosikal 188, dan statistik ini boleh didapati daripada Jabatan Perangkaan ataupun Department of Statistics. Berhubung dengan job security, memang ada program-program yang memastikan seperti dalam yang telah digubal oleh kerajaan, kerajaan akan berusaha berdaya supaya pekerjaan tidak terjejas walaupun dalam keadaan COVID. Sekian, terima kasih.
Yang Berhormat Encik Paulus Gumbang, Batu Danau.
Terima kasih, Tuan Speaker. Soalan saya soalan nombor 2.
Terima kasih, Tuan Speaker. Untuk makluman ahli yang berhormat bagi Batu Danau, kerajaan sememangnya bercadang untuk mempelbagaikan pengeluaran produk berasaskan kerbau. Sehubungan dengan itu, kerajaan telah mengenal pasti produk yang berpotensi iaitu keju berasaskan susu kerbau ataupun mozzarella cheese untuk dibangunkan di Sarawak. Sebuah syarikat anak tempatan daripada Lawas telah pun menunjukkan minat bagi menerajui pembangunan industri pembuatan keju ini. Untuk memastikan kelestarian industri hiliran kerbau, Jabatan Perkhidmatan Veterina Sarawak merancang untuk meningkatkan lagi populasi kerbau di bahagian utara Sarawak khususnya. Salah satu daripada inisiatif tersebut ialah untuk membangunkan lagi stesen kerbau meragang Lawas sebagai pusat penyelidikan dan pembiakan kerbau di dalam rancangan Malaysia ke-12. Stesen ini juga nanti akan dijadikan sebagai pusat pengumpulan, pemprosesan dan pembungkusan produk hiliran tersebut. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Menteri. Saya ada, Datuk Speaker, saya ada 2 soalan iaitu tambahan. Yang pertama ialah apakah jenis baka kerbau yang sesuai dan disyorkan untuk meningkatkan pengeluaran susu segar bagi penghasilan keju. Dan soalan yang kedua ialah apakah program yang disediakan oleh kerajaan negeri kepada penternak kerbau? Terima kasih.
Datuk Speaker, untuk menjawab soalan pertama, di antara jenis baka kerbau yang sesuai dan berkualiti tinggi adalah baka kerbau murah atau nama saintifiknya adalah Babulus bubalis yang berasal daripada India. Babulus bubalis. Bukan YB Paulus. Baka kerbau ini berpotensi mengeluarkan antara 10 hingga 16 liter per day satu hari. Manakala baka yang terdapat di negara di tempat kita adalah baka kerbau tempatan, swarm buffalo yang hanya mampu mengeluarkan 3 hingga 5 liter per day. Oleh itu kita bercadang untuk meningkatkan populasi kerbau yang dapat mengeluarkan hasil susu yang lebih banyak, iaitu dengan membuat kacukan antara kerbau jenis murah ini dengan kerbau tempatan melalui kaedah artificial insemination di stesen pembiakan meragang seterusnya untuk diagihkan kepada penternak melalui skim PAWA. Untuk menjawab soalan yang kedua, bagi makluman ahli yang berhormat bagi Batu Danau, populasi kerbau sekarang di negeri Sarawak adalah 6,558 heads kerbau. Meningkat sedikit berbanding dengan 2 tahun yang lepas dalam lingkungan 5,500 ekor kerbau. Matlamat kerajaan negeri menjelang tahun 2030 adalah untuk meningkatkan bilangan ini kepada sekurang-kurangnya 20,000 kerbau. Berkenaan dengan buffalo farmers pula, penternak kerbau, pada masa ini terdapat 478 penternak kerbau di negeri Sarawak, yang mana 429 adalah di bahagian Limbang. Ada juga yang menternak kerbau di Dewan Undangan Negeri Berkenu. Oleh itu, kita hendak membantu penternak-penternak ini untuk memastikan bahawa matlamat kita untuk meningkatkan bilangan kerbau menjelang tahun 2030 tercapai dengan beberapa program. Antara program yang disediakan adalah program usahawan kerbau ataupun Buffalo Entrepreneur Program. Program ini membekalkan baka bibit kerbau secara PAWA dan membantu dalam pembangunan kawasan atau plot rumput polder dan prasarana yang berkaitan dengan nilai 200,000 setiap penternak dan membekalkan 20 ekor kerbau, 1 ekor jantan dan 25 ekor betina. Boleh tahan. Kedua, program unit komersial ladang ataupun livestock commercial unit. Program ini menyediakan bantuan yang boleh digunakan untuk penyediaan tapak, pembekalan input ladang, pagar, bahan binaan, benih pastura dan stok pembiak baka dengan nilai setiap unit ringgit Malaysia 10,000. Dan yang ketiga, program membaik pulih halaman kerbau, buffalo halaman fencing rehabilitation. Ini untuk mengelakkan kerbau itu terlepas. Program ini melibatkan bantuan pagar high tensile barbed wire dan tiang-tiang pagar, dan kerja-kerja pembaikan akan dilakukan secara gotong royong oleh para peternak kerbau, halaman kerbau tersebut. Dengan satu halaman diberi bantuan ringgit Malaysia 35,000. Untuk mencapai program-program tersebut dapat dilaksanakan, kita telah pun memohon bajet bagi rancangan Malaysia yang ke-12 untuk pembangunan kerbau ini sebanyak 48 juta berbanding dengan rancangan Malaysia ke-11 27.8 juta. Terima kasih.
Yang berhormat Datuk Ding Kong Heng, N46 Meradong.
Terima kasih, Dato' Speaker. My question is number 3.
Thank you. For the information of Ahli Yang Berhormat for Meradong, currently there is no plan to construct an alternative road from Jalan Kilang to Jalan Janting. However, my ministry through JKR Sarawak will conduct a study on the proposal for the alternative road from Jalan Kilang to Jalan Janting and submit it to the Government of Sarawak for consideration under the 12th Malaysia Plan.
Thank you, Dr. Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Assistant Minister. I have two supplementary questions here. Number one, what is the scope of works for the proposed road, and how much will be the cost of it? Thank you.
Thank you. The scope of work for the proposed alternative road will be about 1 kilometer of U2 JKR standard of road, and the cost is estimated to be about 8 million. Thank you.
Yang berhormat Tuan Haji Razali bin Haji Gapo, N29 Beting Maru.
Terima kasih, Dato' Speaker. Soalan saya nombor 4.
Terima kasih Dato' Speaker, dan terima kasih Yang Berhormat Bagi Beting Maru. Untuk makluman ahli Yang Berhormat Bagi Beting Maru, kerajaan telah melaksanakan skim pembebasan kampung SPK bagi Kampung Sepinang, Semarang yang menyediakan 188 lot kediaman, di mana sebanyak 179 lot telah diperuntukkan. Bagi 9 lot lagi akan diagihkan sekiranya ada keperluan. Bagi SPK Kampung Beladin, SPK Pusa dan SPK Seberang Pusa yang juga dikenali sebagai Kampung Kalok, cadangan pelaksanaan telah dikemukakan dalam rancangan Mesyuarat Kedua. Bagi SPK Tambak pula, cadangan tersebut akan dimasukkan ke dalam kajian separuh penggal ke-12, RMK ke-12 jika ada keperluan. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Dato' Menteri, atas jawapan. Saya ada 2 soalan tambahan. Soalan pertama, apakah program pembangunan rumah yang dilaksanakan oleh Perbadanan Pembangunan Perumahan Sarawak, SDC, yang boleh membantu membangunkan rumah bagi lot-lot kediaman di SPK? Soalan yang kedua, saya sedia maklum dan amat teruja dengan projek pembaharuan bandar Urban Renewal yang sedang dilaksanakan oleh kerajaan negeri di beberapa kawasan seperti Daruhana Kuching dan Kemuyang Sibu, yang mana rumah-rumah kediaman dibina dengan begitu menarik dan teratur. Bolehkah pihak kerajaan menyediakan rumah kediaman dengan harga yang berpatutan seperti di Kemuyang tersebut bagi lot rumah SPK di kawasan Beting Maru?
Terima kasih sekali lagi Yang Berhormat Speaker dan Yang Berhormat Bagi Beting Maru. Untuk menjawab kedua-dua soalan tambahan tadi, untuk makluman Yang Berhormat Bagi Beting Maru, penduduk yang telah diagihkan lot-lot di dalam skim pembebasan kampung boleh memohon untuk mengikuti program rumah spektra pemata di bawah HDC. Dan untuk menjawab soalan kedua, kerajaan negeri memang sentiasa peka kepada keperluan rakyat, terutamanya pemilikan rumah mampu milik bagi mengatasi isu kesesakan kampung. Tradisi sedia ada di kawasan luar bandar, termasuklah di kawasan Beting Maru. Mengenai permintaan penyediaan rumah kediaman SPK seperti di Daruhana, Kuching dan Kemuyang Sibu, ahli Yang Berhormat Bagi Beting Maru bolehlah mengemukakan cadangan tersebut pada pihak kerajaan melalui kementerian saya untuk pertimbangan seterusnya. Terima kasih.
Yang berhormat Datuk Mong Anak Dagang N31 Bukit Bangunan.
Kedua Speaker, my question number 5.
Terima kasih, Datuk Speaker. For the information of Ahli Yang Berhormat for Bukit Bangunan, electricity supply to the two longhouses at Menuang in Lingga are currently under implementation through Rural Electricity Scheme RES Last Mile Phase 2 project. For the longhouses in Semulong Hulu and Semulong Ilik at Lingga, as well as the 3 longhouses at Cubao in Pantu, they are listed under RES Last Mile Phase 3, scheduled for our December 2020 or next month. As for Langir in Lingga and the 2 longhouses at Nkerepok, they will be supplied under the ongoing Sarawak Alternative Rural Electrification Scheme or SARES Solar Phase 5B project.
Dato' Speaker, I have 2 supplementary questions. Number 1 is for the ongoing projects. When will it be expected to be completed? And for those projects that will be or are going to be awarded, when will it commence and probably expected to be completed also, or how long will it take to complete the project? Thank you.
Thank you, Berhormat, for Bukit Bangunan. Rest assured that GPS government is a very credible government. Project approved will not be cancelled or deferred. The supply to longhouses under the ongoing RES Last Mile Phase 2 and the ongoing SARES Solar Project Phase 5B are scheduled to complete by first quarter of next year. As for RES Last Mile Phase 3, which is to be awarded, is targeted to complete in the last quarter of next year. Thank you.
Yang berhormat Encik Miro Anak Simo N18 Serumbu.
Terima kasih Yang Berhormat Datuk Speaker. Soalan saya nombor 6.
Terima kasih Datuk Tuan Speaker. Untuk makluman ahli Yang Berhormat Serembu, Kementerian Pelancongan, Kesenian dan Kebudayaan Sarawak mengambil maklum kepentingan penggunaan media sosial dalam promosi produk pelancongan dan akan terus berusaha untuk mempertingkatkan dan memperkasakan keupayaan penggiat-penggiat industri pelancongan yang bertujuan untuk melengkapkan industri dan dengan pengetahuan dan kemahiran yang diperlukan dengan pemasaran melalui media sosial. Baru-baru ini, Kementerian Pelancongan, Kesenian dan Kebudayaan Sarawak telah menanjurkan khusus building online presence through digital marketing initiatives untuk para penggiat industri pelancongan, terutama sekali operator pelancongan inbound untuk meningkatkan kemahiran penggunaan teknologi digital dan media sosial bagi tujuan pemasaran produk dan perkhidmatan. Khusus pemasaran digital sebagi ini membolehkan para penggiat industri mencapai pelanggan berpotensi tanpa had sempadan dan terutamanya dengan norma baharu COVID-19 yang memerlukan penggiat industri pelancongan tempatan untuk bersiaran secara aktif di atas talian. Kementerian saya juga akan bekerjasama dengan pasukan petugas pelancongan bahagian yang dipengerusikan oleh semua residen di setiap bahagian di Sarawak untuk memperluaskan anjuran latihan yang serapah pada masa akan datang. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Yang Berhormat Datuk Speaker. Terima kasih, Yang Berhormat Datuk Menteri atas jawapan. Sini saya ada dua soalan tambahan yang diutarakan. Pandemik COVID-19 telah memberi kesan besar kepada industri pelancongan, baik pemain-pemain besar ataupun pemain-pemain kecil industri pelancongan. Soalan pertama saya ialah apakah langkah-langkah yang diambil oleh Kementerian Pelancongan, Kesenian dan Kebudayaan Sarawak dalam mempromosikan Sarawak secara digital? Dan soalan kedua, apakah insentif yang diberi kepada penggiat-penggiat industri untuk promosi secara digital ini? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Datuk Speaker. Terima kasih, Ahli Yang Berhormat Serembu. Soalan tambahan satu yang ini jawapan untuk makluman yang Ahli Yang Berhormat Serembu. Kementerian Pelancongan, Kesenian dan Kebudayaan Sarawak telah mempromosikan Sarawak secara digital melalui beberapa platform seperti berikut. A. Sarawak Travel Application dan Portal melalui laman web www.sarawak2discover.com. B. Laman web Sarawak Tourism Board melalui laman web www.sarawaktourism.com. C. Facebook dengan nama Sarawak Travel. D. Instagram @Sarawak Travel. C. Twitter @Sarawak Travel. Please see WeChat dan Weibo untuk pasaran Mandarin. Jawapan kedua. Untuk makluman Ahli Yang Berhormat Serembu, Kementerian Pelancongan, Kesenian dan Kebudayaan Sarawak melalui Sarawak Tourism Board telah mengadakan program insentif dana atas talian online system fund bagi mengalahkan dan membantu penggiat-penggiat industri bertingkatkan sistem atas talian masing-masing. Permohonan sebanyak ringgit Malaysia 5,000 boleh dikemukakan kepada Sarawak Tourism Board untuk tujuan membangunkan dan menyelenggara laman web, membangunkan jentera pendapatan atas talian dan pengiklanan digital melalui media sosial. Terima kasih.
Yang Berhormat Encik Roland Duat Anak Jubin N48 Meluan.
Terima kasih Tuan Speaker. Soalan saya nombor 7.
Terima kasih Datuk Speaker. Terima kasih kepada Yang Berhormat daripada Meluan. Untuk pengetahuan Yang Berhormat, piawaian yang digunakan oleh Kementerian Kesihatan untuk membina sesebuah hospital ialah apabila adanya penduduk berjumlah 38,000. Setakat ini bagi daerah Julau terdapat 18,000 penduduk. Oleh demikian, tidak ada perancangan oleh Kementerian Kesihatan untuk membina sebuah hospital bagi Meluan ataupun bagi daerah Julau. Walau bagaimanapun Yang Berhormat, Hospital Serikir sudah dinaik tarafkan sebagai sebuah hospital pakar yang mempunyai perkhidmatan 11 kepakaran di hospital tersebut, maka oleh demikian penduduk bagi kawasan Meluan dapat menerima perkhidmatan kepakaran ini daripada Hospital Serikir. Sekian, terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Menteri Muda. Saya ada dua soalan tambahan. Satu, apakah 11 perkhidmatan kepakaran yang disediakan di Hospital Serikir? Dan berapakah bilangan doktor pakar perubatan di Serikir? Dua, berapakah nasbah katil per populasi dan nasbah doktor per populasi di Serikir? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih sekali lagi Yang Berhormat dari Meluan. Hospital Serikir menawarkan 11 kepakaran, iaitu yang berbentuk perubatan am, pembedahan am, ophthalmology, radiology, obstetrik dan gynecology, pediatrik dan kecemasan, di mana sejumlah 15 orang pakar berkhidmat di Hospital Serikir. Untuk nisbah katil, kita gunakan per 1,000 penduduk. Bagi Hospital Serikir mempunyai 212 katil. Ini bermaksud 1.52 populasi per 1,000 populasi. 1.52 katil per populasi. Sementara jumlah doktor yang berkhidmat di Hospital Serikir setakat ini ialah 146. Bahagian Serikir mempunyai 135,000 penduduk. Maka nisbah doktornya adalah 1 doktor 868 orang penduduk. Ini amat baik dari segi angka. Semasa saya berkhidmat dahulu Yang Berhormat, 1 doktor berkhidmat untuk 2,000 penduduk. Maka jumlah nisbah 1/868 ini adalah merupakan suatu peningkatan yang besar bagi penduduk kawasan Meluan dan juga bahagian Serikir. Terima kasih.
Yang Berhormat Encik Yusuf Nosh Balo, N57 Talian.
Terima kasih Datuk Speaker. Soalan saya nombor 8. Terima kasih Datuk Speaker. Untuk makluman Ahli Yang Berhormat bagi talian, pada masa ini telah ada jawatankuasa pelaburan di kementerian saya yang ahli-ahlinya terdiri daripada jabatan, agensi kerajaan persekutuan dan negeri seperti MITI, MAIDA, Jabatan Alam Sekitar, Land and Survey, SPA, NREB dan jabatan lain yang berkaitan. Jawatankuasa ini berperanan sebagai satu pusat sehenti yang menyelaras dan memudahcara keperluan pelaburan serta memastikan aktiviti pelaburan berkenaan memenuhi hala tuju pembangunan dan mematuhi syarat serta peraturan yang ditetapkan seperti kelulusan pertapakan dan penilaian impak alam sekitar dan sebagainya. Selain itu, terdapat juga jawatankuasa penyelarasan perindustrian atau Industrial Coordination Committee ICC yang berperanan untuk mempertimbangkan semua permohonan lesen projek-projek perindustrian di Sarawak. Bagi memantapkan lagi usaha dalam menarik pelaburan tempatan dan asing ke negeri ini, kementerian ini bercadang untuk memformalisasikan jawatan kuasa pelaburan yang sedia ada dengan menubuhkan unit atau agensi khas di bawah kementerian yang akan fokus kepada usaha mempromosi, menyelaras dan membantu pelaburan di Sarawak sama seperti MAIDA, iaitu Malaysian Investment Development Authority di tingkat nasional. Pada masa ini, jawatan kuasa pelaburan di kementerian saya adalah memadai untuk menyelaras dan memudah cara semua pelabuhan perindustrian untuk seluruh negeri Sarawak. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Yang Berhormat Menteri. Saya ada dua soalan tambahan. Soalan pertama, adakah kerajaan mempunyai perancangan untuk membangunkan taman perindustrian yang baru di Mukah agar dapat menarik lebih banyak pelaburan di kawasan ini? Soalan yang kedua, berapakah jumlah pelaburan dalam sektor perkilangan yang dicatat sepanjang tempoh 5 tahun yang lepas? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Datuk Speaker. Terima kasih Yang Berhormat bagi talian. Pada masa ini belum ada perancangan untuk membangun taman perindustrian baru di kawasan Mukah. Walau bagaimanapun, cadangan tersebut boleh dipertimbangkan sekiranya terdapat permintaan yang tinggi. Untuk soalan kedua, dalam tempoh 5 tahun yang lepas, sektor perkilangan telah merekodkan pelaburan sebanyak RM51.9 bilion yang secara purata adalah RM10.3 bilion setiap tahun. Terima kasih.
Yang Berhormat Datuk Seri Wang Tiong Si, N45 report.
Terima kasih Datuk Speaker. Soalan saya nombor 9.
Terima kasih Datuk Speaker. Terima kasih Ahli Yang Berhormat dari report. Untuk makluman Ahli Yang Berhormat daripada bagi report, kementerian kita telah memukakan cadangan projek untuk membina stadium tertutup bersepadu dalam rancangan Malaysia yang ke-12 dan masih menunggu kelulusan terhadap projek berkenaan. Sekiranya projek ini diluluskan dalam rancangan Malaysia ke-12, maka pihak kementerian akan melaksanakan projek berkenaan dengan sewajarnya. Walau bagaimanapun, untuk maklumat Ahli Yang Berhormat, pada masa ini di bahagian Sarikai terdapat kemudahan-kemudahan seperti berikut: stadium terbuka Sarikai, stadium tertutup Sarikai, Dewan Sorah Sarikai, dan tempat-tempat tersebut bolehlah dijadikan bagi tapak pesta dan aktiviti yang berskala besar di bahagian Sarikai. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih, Datuk Speaker. Saya ada dua soalan tambahan. Soalan nomor 1, berapakah kos yang diperlukan untuk membina stadium tertutup bersepadu dengan taman tempat rekreasi seperti yang dicadangkan ini? Soalan kedua, apakah kemudahan-kemudahan lain di bawah Kementerian Belia dan Sukan yang terdapat di bahagian Sarikai pada masa kini? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih. Untuk maklumat Ahli Berhormat bagi report, kos untuk membina stadium tertutup tersebut adalah lebih kurang 14 juta. Dan di dalam bahagian Sarikai pula ada beberapa fasilitis sukan dan belia yang terdapat di situ. Contohnya seperti stadium terbuka Sarikai, Dewan Sukan Sarikai, asrama belia Sarikai dan kolam renang Sarikai. Manakala pula di daerah Meradong terdapat stadium terbuka Bintango dan stadium terbuka Bintango. Dan di daerah yang terdekat pula seperti di Pakan terdapat stadium terbuka Pakan, dan juga di daerah Julau terdapat stadium terbuka Julau. Terima kasih.
Yang Berhormat Puan Irene Mary Chang Oiling, N51 Bukit Asek.
Thank you, Tuan Speaker. My question is number 10. Datuk Speaker,
I would like to answer question 10 from Ahli Yang Berhormat Bukit Asik and question 29 from Ahli Berhormat Dudong together because they relate to the same topic. Yeah. For the information of Ahli Yang Berhormat for Bukit Asik and Ahli Yang Berhormat for Dudong, during the Movement Control Order or MCO from 18th of March until 31st of May 2020, the Ministry of Welfare, Community Wellbeing, Women, Family and Childhood Development, together with our strategic partners such as Local Council, PDRM, RELA, Health Department, Welfare Department as well as NGO, have conducted various operations to locate and save the homeless. Our record shows a total of 145 homeless people, and they were saved and placed at various temporary shelters provided by the government during this time. They were provided with assistance such as food, portable tent, hygiene kit, and sleeping bags. With regards to the number of homeless by division and district in Sarawak, from 18th of March to 30th of May, Kuching district records 23 homeless, Bau 1, Samarahan nil, Siaran 2, Sri Aman 12, Betong 2, Sarike 7, Sibu 17, Kapit 3, Belaga 1, Song 2, Bintulu 27, Miri 42, Limbang 6. This brings to the grand total of 145. Homelessness is one of the social issues that is given focus by our ministry. For long-term measures, various initiatives will be implemented to mitigate this issue. One example is the setting up of a safe haven for homeless, Tempat Selamat Bagi Gelandangan, starting with a pilot project in Sibu with an approved allocation of 793,623 ringgit. Tuan Speaker, for the information of Ahli Yang Berhormat for Bukit Asik and Ahli Yang Berhormat for Dudong, the state government has approved the establishment of safe haven for the homeless in Sibu at Rumah Majlis Kebajikan dan Sokan anggota-anggota Kerajaan Malaysia, singkatannya MAKSAK, di Jalan Sanyan, Sibu. As of today, the layout plan and design of this TSG has been finalized and endorsed by the ministry. The project is in the process of tendering by the Sibu Municipal Council as the implementing agency. Meanwhile, Persatuan Amal Shanzin Malaysia Sibu branch has been appointed as the anchor NGO to manage the TSG once it's completed.
Thank you, Tuan Speaker and Honourable Minister. Now, we all know that these homeless people taken in, a lot of them actually have mental issues. And yet because they have some mental issues, social welfare cannot take them in, because social welfare can only take those who are independent in caring for themselves and looking after themselves. Actually, just to inform this House and to share with this House.
Bukit Asik, just a supplementary question,
this
please.
This is a supplementary question. It's leading up to my supplementary question. Okay. Just to know, just to let the people know what the danger these people can be to themselves as well as to the public. Actually, in fact, just a few weeks ago, there was a homeless person with mental disability just below my office. He actually broke off the side mirror of a car in the car wash, and would have broken off the windscreen if had not been stopped. Now my question is this. What is the ministry doing to help our homeless people who have some mental problems? That's my first supplementary question.
What's the second one?
Second one would depend on the first one question answer.
Okay. We have actually done a profiling for the homeless. Since 2016 until October 2020, the ministry together with welfare department and strategic partners have carried out 153 operations to locate and save the homeless. So from the profiling, a total of 475 homeless were identified, and we have found out that reasons for homelessness are family problems. That's the main one, 62 cases. That is about 38%. And then 29 cases have no place to stay. That's 18%. Alcohol addiction, 19 cases, 12%. Loss of jobs, 17 cases, 10%. Mental problems, 16 cases. That's about 10%. And then others, 19 cases. Now, what do we do when we carry out operations and we have found that among them we have some who has mental problems? In our interagency operations, dalam operasi bersepadu menyelamat gelandangan, salah satu daripada strategic partner kita ialah Jabatan Kesihatan. So during if there are cases of mental problems, normally they will be referred to the health department. Kemudian mereka setelah disaring akan dibuat iaitu referral cases ke Hospital Sentosa. Dan apabila mereka didapati bahawa sudah boleh di-discharge dan mereka akan dapat berfungsi macam orang lain asalkan mereka makan ubat. This is what has been done through our interagency operation dan juga and also through working together with departments such as health department.
Hello, yeah, thank you. In actual fact, from what I know, that was not actually what was happening on the ground. But anyway, I'll bring that up in my speech. For my second question, actually, I'd just like to ask. During the MCO in Cebu, the Cebu Masak building was converted as a temporary shelter, as the Honourable Minister informed us just now. But today, we are actually on the third wave, and the pandemic is getting worse, bad to worse. And yet, the temporary shelter was actually wrapped up a long time ago, and there was no alternative shelter to shelter these homeless people. So can I just know, and we also know that the MOH actually say that 70% of these COVID-19 cases are asymptomatic, right? They show no symptoms at all. So these people, they are at the total mercy of the virus as they are being out on the street.
Bukit Asik, can you just raise your question, please?
Vessel of the virus as they move from place to place. So my question is, has the ministry tested all these homeless people living on the street to make sure that they are COVID-19 free?
Panjang sekali mukadimah sebelum soalan sehingga saya tak tahu apa soalan sebenarnya.
The question was, did the ministry make sure that those homeless people who are detected as mental went through the COVID test?
During the MCO period, seperti yang saya maklumkan tadi, di mana kita sebenarnya selamatkan semua yang berada di gelandangan yang berada di luar rumah ini. Dan bila mereka ditempatkan di tempat sementara yang selamat di setiap bahagian di negeri Sarawak, memang ujian dijalankan. Saringan iaitu sama seperti orang lain supaya mereka ini juga disaring supaya kita tahu sama ada mereka ini positif atau negatif. Ya. Yes.
Yang berhormat Encik Muhammad Razi bin Sitam, N35 Seribas.
Terima kasih, Datuk Speaker. Soalan saya nombor 11.
Bukit Asek, your time is up. Okay, proceed. No, everyone is only limited to 2 supplementary questions. It's done. Saribas, proceed, please.
Dah. Okey, terima kasih Datuk Speaker. Soalan saya nombor 11.
Thank you very much, Datuk Speaker, and also Yang Berhormat for Saribas. For the information of Yang Berhormat, SK Sebemban is situated at the river bank. Therefore, it is high risk of being eroded as well as flood prone. The government has agreed to relocate these schools about 1.5 kilometers away from the original school. And currently, the tender has been closed and is at the Federal Center Tender Board evaluation, and hopefully this project will be kicked off very soon. It includes 6 classrooms, 6 units of teachers' quarters, as well as a preschool building to accommodate the population at around Sebemban area. Thank you.
Terima kasih Yang Berhormat Menteri Muda. Saya ada 2 soalan tambahan. Pertama, berapa buah sekolah daib di Dun Seribas yang ada dalam rancangan untuk dibaik pulih di bawah peruntukan 1 bilion loan kontra. Yang kedua, berapakah jumlah kos yang telah diperuntukkan untuk Dun Seribas bagi tujuan baik pulih sekolah-sekolah daib di Dun Seribas? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Yang Berhormat bagi Saribas. Untuk pengetahuan Dewan Yang Mulia ini, apa yang dimaksudkan oleh Yang Berhormat 1 bilion tadi adalah merupakan bayaran kontra loan yang diberi oleh kerajaan negeri untuk membiayai sekolah-sekolah daif di negeri Sarawak, iaitu sebanyak 1 bilion ringgit. Dan untuk kawasan Dun Seribas, sebuah sekolah telah dikenal pasti di bawah peruntukan tersebut, iaitu sekolah SK Tanjung Asam. Sementara itu, peruntukan-peruntukan lain yang telah digunakan pakai untuk membaik pulih sekolah-sekolah di kawasan Dun Seribas bernilai sebanyak 35.12 juta ringgit, iaitu termasuk 13 buah sekolah dari berbagai bentuk funding, iaitu daripada rancangan Malaysia, daripada projek 1 bilion tadi, daripada Rural Transformation Initiative Kerajaan Negeri, dan juga daripada baik pulih tahunan yang disalurkan oleh Kementerian Pendidikan Negeri Sarawak dan juga Kementerian Pendidikan Malaysia. Terima kasih.
Yang Berhormat Encik Ali Anak Biju, N39 Krian.
Terima kasih Tuan Speaker. Soalan saya nombor 12.
Terima kasih Datuk Speaker. Terima kasih Ahli Yang Berhormat bagi Krian. Untuk maklumat Ahli Yang Berhormat bagi Krian, bagi mempromosi tanaman durian musangking di Sarawak, kerajaan telah mengagihkan benih durian musangking kepada pekebun kecil di seluruh Sarawak. Pada masa yang sama, kerajaan telah mempergiatkan aktiviti pengembangan dan latihan bagi pekebun kecil termasuk penerima benih tersebut dan mempergiatkan pelaksanaan skim pengesahan bahan tanaman SPBT durian. Di samping itu, kerajaan juga mewujudkan skim tanam baru durian. Terima kasih.
Agensi kerajaan IADA, mereka ada menyediakan skim penanaman musangking seperti yang dibuat di kawasan IADA Kelakar Seribas. Jadi adakah kerajaan negeri bercadang untuk membuat program yang similar seperti berikut?
Sebagaimana yang saya katakan tadi, kerajaan negeri melalui Jabatan Pertanian Negeri Sarawak ada apa yang dinamakan skim tanam baru durian. Ini meliputi seluruh negeri Sarawak. Skim ini kadar bantuan bagi tanaman baru durian ini adalah 15,000 1 hektar yang melibatkan pembersihan kawasan, pemberian input seperti baja dan juga pemberian benih. Jadi yang berhormat daripada Bagi Kerian boleh memohon bagi pihak kebun-kebun yang berminat untuk mengikuti skim ini. Terima kasih.
Yang berhormat Insinyur Christopher Gira, anak Sambang, N59 Tamin.
Terima kasih Yang Berhormat Datuk Speaker. Soalan saya soalan 13.
Terima kasih Datuk Speaker. Terima kasih kepada Ahli Yang Berhormat Bagi N59 Tamin. Untuk makluman Yang Berhormat Bagi Tamin, di pihak kerajaan memang ada berusaha untuk menaik taraf kedua-dua loji penipisan air di kawasan Dun Tamin, iaitu di Pekan Setapang dan di Pekan Selangau. Di Dun Tamin terdapat 2 loji penipisan air ini, dan pihak kerajaan telah pun mengambil inisiatif untuk menaik taraf kedua-dua loji ini untuk meningkatkan pembekalan air kepada kawasan setempat. Projek menaik taraf air Skuau di Pekan Setapang telah pun diluluskan untuk pelaksanaan di bawah Kementerian Pembangunan Luar Bandar KPLB dan kini di peringkat reka bentuk. Tendernya dijangkakan akan dipanggil pada penghujung Disember tahun ini, dan apabila selesai projek ini nanti, ia akan mampu meningkatkan kapasiti pengeluaran bekalan air sebanyak 7 juta liter sehari, 7 MLD, iaitu daripada sekarang sebanyak 0.65 MLD kepada 7.65 MLD. Dan ini akan memberi manfaat kepada masyarakat serta penduduk di Pekan Setapang dan kawasan sekitarnya. Manakala untuk loji penipisan air di Pekan Selangau, pihak kerajaan melalui usaha Kementerian Pembangunan Luar Bandar telah pun menyaraikan projek menaik taraf loji ini untuk perancangan dalam rancangan Malaysia yang ke-12, iaitu akan berusaha untuk menaik taraf loji ini daripada sekarang 7 MLD kepada 20 MLD dalam tempoh rancangan Malaysia yang ke-12. Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Datuk Speaker, terima kasih Menteri Muda. Saya ada 2 soalan tambahan. Pertama, berapakah anggaran kos yang diluluskan untuk projek naik taraf loji air Skuau di Pekan Setapang, dan berapakah isi rumah yang akan mendapat manfaat kepada projek ini. Soalan kedua berkenaan dengan loji penepasan air di Selangau. Berapakah kos peruntukan yang akan diluluskan oleh kerajaan? Terima kasih.
Terima kasih Datuk Speaker. Terima kasih bagi Ahli Berhormat bagi Tamin. Untuk makluman Ahli Berhormat bagi Tamin, kos yang telah diluluskan untuk projek menaik taraf loji air di Skuau di Pekan Setapang adalah sebanyak 65.2 juta ringgit. Dan ini dijangka akan memberi manfaat kepada 763 isi rumah yang terdapat di kawasan Pekan Setapang dan sekitarnya. Manakala untuk untuk projek menaik taraf penapisan air di Pekan Selangau pula yang dijangka akan dilaksanakan dalam rancangan Malaysia yang ke-12, kos untuk projek ini ialah sebanyak 30 juta ringgit. Terima kasih.
Ahli-ahli yang berhormat, question time is up. Ya. Sorry. Proceed.
Rang Undang-Undang Kerajaan, bacaan kali yang pertama. Supply 2021 Bil 2020. Yang berhormat Ketua Menteri, Menteri Kewangan dan Perancangan Ekonomi, Menteri Pembangunan Bandar dan Sumber Asli dan Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N81.
Yang amat berhormat, please allow me to raise this standing order, Mr. Speaker, on Standing Order 23, bracket 1, on the notice of motion. I've submitted a notice of motion to set up for this House to set up a special select committee. And my motion was submitted on the Monday last week, and it was rejected by the Speaker on the ground that it's short of 10 days notice based on Standing Order 23. Mr. Speaker, I read Standing Order 23. It says 10 days notice for any motion, number one, but it doesn't say any the 10 days notice before the sitting of any particular sitting. So, if you look at the standing order, the notice of motion will have complied with the standing order had the motion be tabled on Thursday, this coming Thursday. You will have fully complied with the 10 days notice. You cannot add words into the standing order to say that it has to be 10 days before the sitting begins on Monday, today. Therefore, my notice of motion will have complied with this standing order 23 bracket 1 had this motion be tabled on Thursday. So therefore, Mr. Speaker, I beg to differ with the decision of the Speaker in rejecting this motion. That is my first ground for the objection. Second ground for the objection is that it's under Standing Order 23 2 bracket 2 D. That is, unless this standing order otherwise provide, notice shall be given of any motion which it is proposed to move, with the exception of the following: A, B, C, D. A motion to proceed to any particular business out of the regular order. Now, Mr. Speaker, my standing order, my notice of motion is to move a motion that this House appoints a special select committee to supervise and oversee the running, the operation and exploitation of our important natural resources, oil and gas, especially, specifically by Petros. This is something that is out of the ordinary, out of the any particular business, out of the regular order of this meeting. Therefore, under 23(2)(d) of the standing order, notice there is no 10 days notice requirement. Therefore, Mr. Speaker, oil and gas is a very important resources, natural resources of our state.
Kota
We don't want
Sentosa.
a repeat of what happened to timber and forest resources and the land resources that has happened in the past, whereby only the few elites were benefited from this exploitation of these resources.
Okay,
And
Kota Sentosa.
Mr. Speaker,
Kota Sentosa.
Therefore, Mr. Speaker,
Kota Sentosa.
can I finish, Mr. Speaker? Can I finish? I urge, Mr. Speaker, to reverse your decision to reject my motion and to allow this motion to be debated and a special select committee to be set up, to be appointed by this House to oversee the operation, management and exploitation of our natural oil and gas resources. Thank you, Mr.
Okay, Kota Sentosa, that's noted. And that will be dealt with subsequently by the Speaker. Thank you. Ahli-ahli yang berhormat, can we now proceed with the order of the day?
To introduce a bill entitled an ordinance to apply a sum out of the consolidated fund for the service of the year 2031 to be read the first time.
Supply 2021 Bill 2020.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to give notice that this bill will be read a second time today.
Rang Undang-Undang Kerajaan, bacaan kali yang pertama, Supplementary Supply 2020 Bill 2020. Yang berhormat Timbalan Ketua Menteri, Menteri Kewangan Kedua, Menteri Pemodenan Pertanian, Tanah Adat dan Penguasaan Wilayah dan Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N37 Bukit Saban.
Mr. Speaker, I beg to introduce the Supplementary Supply Bill 2020 to be read the first time.
Supplementary Supply 2020 Bill 2020.
I wish to give notice that this bill will be read a second time on Wednesday, 11 November 2020.
Rang Undang-Undang Kerajaan, bacaan kali yang pertama, Temporary Measure for Reducing the Impact of Coronavirus Disease 2019 COVID-19 Bill 2020. Yang berhormat Timbalan Ketua Menteri, Menteri Kewangan Kedua, Menteri Pemodenan Pertanian, Tanah Adat dan Penguasaan Wilayah dan Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N37 Bukit Saban.
I beg, Mr. Speaker, I beg to introduce the temporary measure to reduce the impact of coronavirus disease 2019 Bill 2020 to be read the first time.
Temporary measures for reducing the impact of coronavirus disease 2019 COVID-19 Bill 2020.
Mr. Speaker, I wish to give notice that this bill will be read a second time today.
Rang Undang-Undang Kerajaan, bacaan kali yang pertama, Local Authorities Amendment Bill 2020. Yang berhormat Menteri Kerajaan Tempatan dan Perumahan dan Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N14 Batu Kawah.
Dato' Speakers, I beg to introduce a Local Authorities Amendment Bill 2020 be read a first time.
Local Authorities Amendment Bill 2020.
I beg to introduce a Local Authorities Amendment Bill 2020 be read a second time today, 9th November 2020.
Rang Undang-Undang Kerajaan, bacaan kali yang pertama, Constitution of the State of Sarawak Amendment Bill 2020. Yang berhormat Menteri Belia dan Sukan, Menteri Pelancongan Kesenian dan Kebudayaan dan Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N15 Asajaya.
I beg to introduce the Constitution of State of Sarawak Amendment Bill 2020, be read the first time.
Constitution of the State of Sarawak Amendment Bill 2020.
I wish to give notice that this bill be read a second time on the 10th of November 2020.
Rang Undang-Undang Kerajaan, bacaan kali yang ketua, Supply 2021 Bill 2020, yang amat berhormat Ketua Menteri, Menteri Kewangan dan Perancangan Ekonomi, Menteri Pembangunan Bandar dan Sumber Asli dan Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N81.
Dato' Ahmad Speaker, saya mohon mencadangkan supaya rang undang-undang bertajuk satu ordinan bagi menggunakan sejumlah wang daripada kumpulan wang disatukan untuk perkhidmatan bagi tahun 2021 dan bagi memperuntukkan wang itu untuk perkhidmatan tahun itu dibaca bagi kali kedua. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, Alhamdulillah, saya ingin merafakkan rasa syukur setinggi-tingginya kehadrat Allah Subhanahu Wa Taala kerana dengan izinnya saya berpeluang untuk membentangkan bajet negeri Sarawak tahun 2021 dalam Dewan yang mulia ini. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, saya membentangkan bajet negeri pada kali ini dalam keadaan ekonomi global yang sangat mencabar, berlatar belakangkan krisis ekonomi dunia yang serius di tengah-tengah kesan penularan pandemik COVID-19. Wabak ini telah menimbulkan ancaman besar kepada ekonomi negeri dan rakyat keseluruhannya. Keadaan yang gentir ini memerlukan kita untuk mengambil tindakan pemulihan segera bagi menangani ancaman wabak tersebut. Seterusnya memulih dan membina semula ekonomi negeri. Sejak dari awal lagi, kerajaan GPS sentiasa meletakkan kesejahteraan rakyat sebagai keutamaan dalam segala perancangan dan tindakan kita. Ini adalah selaras dengan perjuangan kita dalam melindungi hak dan menjaga kepentingan Sarawak di bawah moto utamakan Sarawak, Sarawak First. Berbekalkan komitmen ini, bajet negeri 2021 akan memfokuskan kepada keperluan untuk memulihkan dan membangunkan semula ekonomi negeri dengan mempercepatkan pelaksanaan pelbagai projek prasarana termasuk kemudahan infrastruktur, kemudahan awam, inisiatif ekonomi digital, perumahan, pendidikan, pengembangan bakat dan pembangunan sosial. Langkah ini akan memberi kesan penggandaan atau multiplier effects yang akan mewujudkan lebih banyak peluang pekerjaan, meningkatkan taraf hidup rakyat dan memastikan kelangsungan perniagaan. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, before I go into details of 2021 state budget, I would like to update this August House on the latest economic performance for the year 2020 and the outlook for 2021 as a backdrop to state 2021 budget proposal. Global economy outlook. 2020 is indeed a very challenging year, with the world confronting with a health and economic crisis never experienced before. The outbreak of COVID-19 has created tremendous global economic shock, leading to the worst recession and collapsing of global activities. The global economy is projected to experience a deep downturn with negative growth of 4.4% in 2020 as COVID-19 pandemic continues to show uncertainty and businesses around the world struggle to operate. Many countries have implemented various containment measures such as lockdowns, quarantine, closure of schools and non-essential business, social distancing, and travel restriction to break the spread of COVID-19 and to ease the strain on healthcare system. Although these measures have, to a certain extent, flattened the curve of the spread, the tightening measures have resulted in large short-term economic losses and decline in global economic activities. Consumption and investment are affected, and the entire global supply chains are disrupted. Growth in the advanced economy is projected at negative 5.8% in 2020 before strengthening to 3.9% in 2021. Deep economic downturns are foreseen in the United States with projected growth of negative 4.3%, Euro area at negative 8.3%, and Japan at negative 5.3% in 2020. Growth in the emerging markets and developing economies is forecasted to contract by 3.3% in 2020 as a result of weaker external demand and disruption associated with domestic containment measures. Declining commodity prices added to the challenging growth in the emerging markets and developing countries. While other countries are struggling to reopen the economy, China's economy bounces into growth after a steep slump in the first quarter of 2020. For the year, the China economy is projected to grow at 1.9% and rebound strongly to 8.2% growth in 2021. India's economy is projected to contract by 10.3% following a longer period of lockdowns and slower recovery. Growth in India is projected to pick up to 8.8% in 2021 with the resumption of normal economic activities. The overall growth in the emerging markets and developing economies is expected at 6.0% in 2021. World trade, as reflected through weak demand due to disrupted global value chains and limited international travel, is projected to contract by 10.4% in 2020. Nevertheless, as the global economy improves, world trade is projected to rebound to 8.3% growth in 2021. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, National Economic Performance 2020 and Prospect for 2021. Malaysia economy is expected to contract by 4.5% in 2020 before rebounding between 6.5% and 7.5% in 2021. The pandemic has hit the Malaysian economy severely in the second quarter of 2020, with GDP contracted by 17.1%. Weak growth has recorded across all economic sectors because of weak external demand and strict containment measures imposed to combat COVID-19. Nevertheless, there is sign of economic recovery as activity gradually pick up since the reopening of the economy in early May 2020. Thus, the Malaysia economy is expecting a gradual recovery in the second half of 2020 as both domestic and external demand improves. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, state economic performance in 2020 and prospect for 2021. In Sarawak, our economy is expected to contract between 3.5% and 5% this year. Negative growth is expected across all sectors of the economy, with the worst hit being the tourism and manufacturing sectors. The decline in tourism has spillover effect on other services sectors, particularly affecting the transport and logistics, hotel and accommodation, wholesale and retail trade, as well as food and beverages industries. For the first 9 months of 2020, visitors' arrival contracted by 64.1% due to travel restriction and closure of international border. The services sector is expected to register a negative growth of 1.4% in 2020. We anticipate that the tourism industry will take some time to fully recover. The manufacturing sector is projected to contract by 6.9% in 2020 as production activities were disrupted across the global supply chains and firms were constrained to operate at limited capacity, mainly during the first 3 months of Movement Control Order MCO period. In the mining sector, growth is projected to contract to 2.9% in 2020, attributed to lower production of crude oil and natural gas. The sharp decline was due to the MCO, as well as the ongoing maintenance works and the disruption of Sabah-Sarawak gas pipeline, particularly in the first half of 2020. Activity in the construction sector was also disrupted, as almost all activities came to a standstill during the MCO lockdowns. Many firms and contractors were struggling to comply with the strict COVID-19 standard operating procedure, while also having to face with the shortage of construction materials and workers due to supply disruptions and cross-border restrictions. Thus, the construction sector is projected to register negative growth of 9.5% in 2020. The situation, however, is expected to gradually improve, and for 2021, this sector is anticipated to register a stronger growth. Due to lockdowns imposed by countries across the globe, particularly in the first half of 2020, the agriculture sector is projected to contract by 1.5% in 2020. For the first 5 months, production of palm oil contracted by negative 2.1% before it gradually picked up starting June 2020. With the easing of the COVID-19 lockdowns, the palm oil industry is gradually recovering, entering the second half of 2020, supported by improvement in global consumption. The 100% exemption from export duty on crude palm oil, crude palm kernel oil, and processed palm kernel oil starting 1st July 2020 to 31st December 2020 under Penjana initiative further adds to the increasing demand, notably from China and India. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, demand side. On the demand side, trade slowed down since the last quarter of 2019. The situation was made worse by the pandemic, with restriction on travels and lockdowns by countries across the globe. For the first 8 months of 2020, total trade contracted by 20.9%. Both export and import experienced double-digit contraction of 24.8% and 12.1% respectively. Besides lower demand from importing countries on oil and gas, the decline in crude oil price dampens further the growth in export. Crude oil prices dropped by 34.3%, or from USD 65.1 per barrel dollars in the first 8 months of 2019 to USD 42.8 per barrel in the first 8 months of 2020. Export to our major importing countries, largely from Japan and Peninsular Malaysia, contracted by 15.1% and 36.9% respectively. At the same time, import of capital and intermediate goods dropped by 11.4%, in line with the slowing down of economic activities, particularly during the MCO period. Private investment is expected to contract by 11.3% in 2020, as a lot of groundwork has been put on hold, adversely affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. Private investors and firms are anticipated to remain on a cautious note amid slower production and disruption to global supply chains. Growth in public investment is also projected to drop significantly in 2020 due to a slowdown in the economic activities affected by the movement restriction and COVID-19 mitigation measures. Public consumption is projected to expand at 33.6% in 2020, with higher spending on supplies and emoluments. More spending, particularly on the COVID-19 measures by both the Sarawak and federal government, are expected to contribute to the growth in public consumption. On the other hand, private consumption is projected to decline by 1.9% in 2020. The strict MCO has largely affected household spending, resulting in widespread income losses across the wide spectrum of business sectors. However, the disbursement of Bantuan Khas Sarawak Kusayang and Bantuan Prihati Nasional, as well as the implementation of loan moratorium, has provided some cushioning on consumption spending. Overall, the state economy is projected to gradually recover once the COVID-19 pandemic situation improves, driving both domestic and external demand. Thus, the state economy is projected to grow between 6.0% to 8.0% in 2021. Dato' Mas Speaker, inflation. Sarawak recorded a negative 1.6% inflation rate in the first 9 months of 2020. Notwithstanding the negative inflation, the decline in prices was not broad-based. For the whole of 2020, inflation rate is expected to be between negative 1.5% and negative 2%. Labour market. Based on the record from Labour Department of Sarawak, there are 72,251 vacancies reported from January until September 2020. It is noted that there are a total of 1,956 retrenchments up to September 2020, which were mostly found in the hotels and restaurants, wholesale and retail, and construction sectors. We foresee that there will be a rise in unemployment rate to between 5 and 5.5%. Dato' Mas Speaker, State 12 Malaysia Plan. Now let me touch briefly on the preparation of State 12 Malaysia Plan, which will cover the period 2021 to 2025. Given the COVID-19 pandemic, we would certainly not be able to operate on business as usual mode anymore. Neither could we be complacent and rest on our laurels. Adjusting and adapting ourselves to the new normal is the only way forward. For this reason, I have formed the Sarawak Economic Action Council, or SEAC, to look into the post-COVID-19 exit economic strategy 2030, which would encompass the forthcoming 12 Malaysia Plan. We have formulated the state development strategies under the 12 Malaysia Plan, of which 7 core economic sectors and 6 key enablers have been identified to drive Sarawak towards a high-income economy by 2030. The 7 key economic sectors are: 1. Commercial agriculture and commodities, focusing on smart or precision farming. 2. Manufacturing with Industrial Revolution IR 4.0. 3. Forestry, with a focus on reforestation, industrial forests, and sustainable logging. 4. Tourism, with continuous effort to enhance connectivity for both leisure and business visitors. 5. Mining exploration towards a greater downstream value chain. 6. Renewable energy towards the development of hydrogen biomass and solar power. And 7. Services sector. Whereas the 6 enablers are: 1. Education and skills enhancement. 2. Digital transformation. 3. Infrastructure development. 4. Transport system networks. 5. Utilities provision. And 6. Innovation and research and development. Dato' Mas Speaker, impacts of COVID-19 pandemic to state economy and state immediate mitigation measures. The COVID-19 pandemic has severely affected our economy and the livelihood of the people. It has disproportionately impacted all levels of society and businesses, particularly the vulnerable groups. Proactive action and whole of government approach are required to not only save lives, but also the health of our economy. As a caring government, we have implemented Sarawak Ku Sayang Special Aid Packages, BKSS, under BKSS 1.0, BKSS 2.0, BKSS 3.0, and BKSS 4.0, with a total allocation of 1.741 billion ringgit to cushion the mitigate the impact brought about by the pandemic. The various measures implemented have provided needful assistances, covering people of various backgrounds, from individuals to businesses, which among others include the following. 1. Cash incentive for B40 under Bantuan Sara Hidup of 250 ringgit per month for 6 months from April 2020 to September 2020, amounting to 645 million ringgit. 2. Cash incentive to frontliners for 6 months, amounting to 20.4 million ringgit as follows. 300 ringgit per month for doctors and nurses, 200 per month for personnel in Immigration Department, Royal Malaysian Custom Department, local authorities, Angkatan Pertahanan Awam, Jabatan Bomba dan Penyelamat, Polis Diraja Malaysia and Rela. 3. One-off financial assistance amounting to 237.4 million ringgit for the following groups. 500 ringgit for 347,806 single, aged 21 years old, earning income 2,000 ringgit and below. 1,500 ringgit to about 30,000 head of household, ketua isi rumah. 500 ringgit to 199 owner and operator of penambang registered with Sarawak Rivers Board. 600 ringgit to 959 licensed van operators. 600 ringgit to 1,976 taxi drivers. 600 ringgit to 739 school bus and van. 1,500 ringgit special assistance to 145 licensed tourists and 113 park guides, and 1,500 ringgit to 500 media frontliners. As at 31st August 2020, a sum of 714.50 million cash incentive has been disbursed to these recipients. Dato' Mas Speaker, the state has also provided assistance to the business community to support hawkers, petty traders, micro, small and medium-sized enterprises, which include the following. 1. 2,250 special grant to more than 65,000 hawkers and petty traders through Sarawak Pay and cash vouchers involving a total sum of 147.25 million ringgit. 2. Interest-free soft loan for SMEs to more than 40,000 SMEs with an allocation of 80.7 million ringgit. 3. provision of additional 20 million ringgit funds from existing 30 million approved for microcredit scheme for SMEs to expand and sustain their businesses. 4. Deferment of loan repayment for borrowers of scheme pinjaman industri kecil dan sederhana SPIK covering a period of 6 months effective from March 2020 worth 1.3 million ringgit. 5. Abolishment of 2% interest rate to 0% for 3.5 years under microcredit scheme involving an allocation of 3 million ringgit. 4. Waiver of rentals to SMEs in retail sector operating on premises owned by the state statutory bodies and GLCs involving a sum of 1 million ringgit. And 7. 50% discount for rental of market and stall covering a period of 6 months benefiting more than 10,000 hawkers involving a sum of 2.08 million ringgit. And 8. Waiver of permits and licenses fees to traders, hawkers and petty traders in the various local authorities involving a sum of 8.24 million ringgit. Apart from the cash incentive, the state government has also introduced additional measures which include the following. 1. 50% rental discount on renting of Housing Development Corporation housing unit for a period of 6 months to more than 3,200 tenants. 2. 6 months electricity and water bill discount worth 157.43 million ringgit. 3. 25% discount and annual assessment rates above 400 ringgit threshold to residential, commercial, industrial and special purpose holdings for 2020 involving a sum of 74.58 million ringgit. 4. 30% discount for land rents to all land users for year 2020, benefiting 52,403 commercials, industrial, residential, large-scale plantation and other public facilities involving a sum of 11.84 million ringgit. And 5. One-off deferment of land premium payment for year 2020, benefiting 1,721 stakeholders across Sarawak, which include agriculture, residential, commercial and industrial unit, as well as private and public institutions involving a sum of 166.3 million ringgit. In addition to that, other assistance provided by the state government are as follows. 1. Distribution of free face masks throughout Sarawak costing 3.2 million ringgit. 2. One-off assistance fund to hospital throughout Sarawak, that is hospital needs and PPE, amounting to 10 million ringgit. And 3. Food packages for frontliners amounting to 1 million ringgit. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, in view of the current surge in the COVID-19 cases in the country, my administration have decided to extend 7 measures under BKSS 4.0 involving a sum of 104.84 million. These measures are: 1. Electricity bill discount. Domestic, commercial and industrial consumers will continue to be given discount of 5% to 25% on their monthly electricity bill for October until December 2020. The discount will benefit 686,847 users throughout Sarawak. This special one-off discount of electricity bill will involve a sum of 83.4 million ringgit. 2. Water bill discount. Domestic, commercial and industrial consumers will continue to be given discount of 10% to 25% on their monthly water bill for October until December 2020. This special one-off discount will benefit 568,247 consumers throughout the state, which involve a sum of 12.63 million ringgit. 3. 50% discount on HDC rental. A discount of 50% for rental of Housing Development Corporation houses will also be extended, covering a period of 3 months from October to December 2020. This assistance is expected to benefit more than 3,200 tenants, involving a sum of 1.3 million ringgit. 4. 50% discount for rental and off-market install. A discount of 50% for rental of market install will also be extended for a period of 3 months up to December 2020. This assistance is expected to benefit more than 10,000 hawkers under the various local councils. A sum of 0.8 million is allocated for this purpose. 5. Waiver of permit and licensing fees. We will continue to provide waiver of permits and licenses fees to traders, hawkers, night market traders, and tamu operation to ease their financing burden. And this initiative is amounting to 4.12 million ringgit. 6. Waiver of rental to SMEs in retail sector operating on premises owned by state GLCs and statutory bodies. The waiver of rental to SMEs in the retail sectors which are operating on premises owned by the government-linked companies such as Sarawak Economic Development Corporation, SADC, Land Custody Development Authority, LCDA, and Bidulu Development Authority, BDA, will also be extended for a period of 3 months until December 2020, involving a sum of 1 million ringgit. 7. Assistance to e-hailing driver and instructor, a one-off cash assistance of 500 ringgit covering a period of 3 months until December 2020 will be given to 3,186 drivers and instructors, involving a total sum of 1.59 million ringgit. Dato' Amar Speaker, financial performance of the state in 2020. Now I would like to update this August House on the state financial performance in 2020. Taking into account the actual revenue collection as of taking into account the actual revenue collection as of 31st October 2020, the state is anticipated to collect a sum of 10.703 billion ringgit this year, including receipt of outstanding state sales tax, SST, on crude oil, liquefied natural gas, and other petroleum products amounting to 2.957 billion from Petronas. Our efforts in expanding the state revenue base via imposition of the SST has proven to be a strategic move by the state government in achieving the fiscal flexibility is much needed to strategize and manage its economic development agenda and financial affairs. This revenue source would also greatly assist to ease the state in facing current economic downturn and in combating impacts of COVID-19 pandemic. Expenditure 2020, ordinary expenditure. Dato' Amar Speaker, the 2020 ordinary expenditure has been revised upwards from 9.694 billion ringgit to 10.408 billion ringgit, an increase of 714 million or 7.4%. This is mainly meant for State Disaster Relief Fund to cater for the special assistance to address the impact of COVID-19 pandemic under Sarawak Ku Sayang Special Aid Packages. As at 31st October 2020, an amount of 8.948 billion of ordinary expenditure, or 86%, had been expended. Out of the total amount of ordinary expenditure expended during the period, 3.569 billion ringgit was for operating expenditure, 4.8 billion ringgit was meant for development expenditure, while the balance of 570 million ringgit was for State Disaster Relief Fund. Development expenditure. The development expenditure for 2020 has also been revised upwards from 6.597 billion ringgit to 7.386 billion ringgit, an increase of 789 million ringgit or about 12%. The revised development expenditure estimate has been approved by Dewan Undangan Negeri in its sitting in May 2020. Out of this amount, 3.834 billion ringgit or 52% has been expended for the period ended 31st October 2020. The performance is affected by the slowdown in the activities due to MCO and COVID-19 mitigation measures. Nonetheless, the expenditure is expected to increase further as development momentum on the ground continues to pick up towards the end of the year. Dato' Amar Speaker, GPS government achievement over the last 3.5 years, the state government has been rigorously and rapidly moving to deliver the promises made to the rakyat. Since taking office and continue the good work of my predecessor, the late Yang Amat Berbahagia Pen Sri Tan Sri Haji Adnan bin Haji Satem, my administration has enacted, introduced, and implemented over 100 initiatives to fulfill these promises. Promises made, promises kept, janji mestilah ditepati. Notwithstanding the facts that there are obstacles along the way caused by the outbreak of COVID-19 and subsequent shortage of labor on the ground, we will persevere and remain focused to secure a brighter future for Sarawak. Since these various people-oriented initiatives and achievements are too numerous for me to list down, suffice for me to highlight some of the key ones as follows. 1. Fighting for and safeguarding Sarawak rights, interests, and status under MA 63. 2. Revenue re-engineering and diversifying Sarawak revenue base through imposition of sales tax. 3. Implementing the Sarawak Digital Economy Roadmap. 4. Establishing Sarawak Multimedia Authority, Sarawak Digital Economic Corporation, and SENTEC to provide digital economy transformation, talent, and startup development. 5. expanding electrification and water supply, especially to rural areas. 6. Protecting people's right over ownership through recognition of native territorial domain. 7. Establishing the Sarawak TV to introduce and promote Sarawak nationwide. 8. Financial aid for government-aided school, including Chinese medium and mission school. 9. Modernizing public transport. And 10. Setting up of Sarawak Coastal Guard to protect our shoreline. Dato' Mas Speaker, this is what the government for the people does. Protect what matters most, fulfill the people's aspiration, and plan ahead for the future. Dato' Mas Speaker, strategic approach towards recovery. Given the ongoing global recession, with COVID-19 pandemic still very much ravaging worldwide, it makes the task of managing our economy even more daunting and onerous. This drives us to relook at our approach and review our strategic direction. In doing so, the focus shall be based on the following 5 key objectives. First, we must strengthen our firewalls against this risk by ensuring our socio-economic stability and prudent fiscal management are at all times achieved and sustained. Second, we continue to support and rely on our domestic demand and local markets to cushion the slowdown in the economy, and this is crucial given the disruption in the global supply chain. Third, we must be agile and resourceful to continue formulating and designing resilient recovery policies and initiatives to build back better the economy for rakyat well-being and inclusiveness. Fourth, we must exploit and optimize the use of digital technologies and create innovation ecosystem to drive our transformation effort both in public and private sectors. And fifth, we need to give special emphasis on the development of green growth and green technologies towards sustainable environmental management and resources conservation. Dato' Mas Speaker, State Budget Proposal for 2021. I would now like to table the 2021 State Budget Proposal with the theme, Reinvigorating the Economy Towards a Resilient, Caring and Inclusive Society. Year 2021 will mark the first year of the 12th Malaysia Plan, 2021 to 2025 implementation period. To achieve the state aspiration towards a high-income economy by 2030, the State Development Strategic Trust and directions are being formulated to take into account the post-COVID-19 exit economic strategy 2030 that will encompass the forthcoming 12th Malaysia Plan. The priority of my administration is to provide additional resources and assistance, including for the vulnerable section of our society, speed up development in both urban and rural areas, as well as enhance provision of infrastructure and utilities. Therefore, the 2021 state budget is framed across 8 strategic thrusts aimed at steering and reinvigorating the economy towards recovery and sustainable growth. This approach will enable us to build a resilient society, strengthen social inclusivity, and enhance environmental sustainability. The 8 strategic thrusts anchoring the 2021 state budget are: 1. Steering economic recovery. 2. Securing the people's well-being. 3. Ensuring food security and transformation of agricultural production. 4. Strengthening social security. 5. Advancing digital economy. 6. Human capital development. 7. Promoting environmental sustainability. And 8. Enhancing government service delivery. In taking this up, the 2021 state budget will continue to be expansionary budget aimed to stimulate the state economic growth that was severely impacted by the COVID-19 pandemic, while ensuring balanced socio-economic development between urban and rural areas. The focus of the budget will be: 1. Development bias budget. 2. Rural bias budget. 3. Paving way for economic recovery. And 4. Improving sustainable living. It is the philosophy of the GPS government that in our continuous effort to develop the state, no one will be left behind. Every Sarawakian, no matter where they are, should be able to reap and enjoy the fruits of development. And it is the responsibility of my administration to create an enabling environment for our people to do so. We fully commit ourselves to take care of Sarawak and protect Sarawak from unscrupulous elements. Jaga Sarawak into Sarawak. Dato' Mas Speaker, Revenue Estimate 2021. The state revenue for the year 2021 is projected at 10.012 billion ringgit, comprising the following: 1. Tax revenue totaling 4.742 billion ringgit, or 47% of the total expected revenue in 2021, consisting of the following: A. 3.687 billion ringgit from state sales tax, of which 3.034 billion from crude oil, liquefied natural gas, and other petroleum products, 505 million ringgit from crude palm oil and crude palm oil kernel oil, 80 million ringgit from lottery, 58 million ringgit from aluminium products, while the remaining 10 million ringgit from tire. B. 600 million ringgit from raw water royalty. C. 183 million ringgit expected from forestry royalty, and 144 million from timber premium. And D. 128 million ringgit from mining royalties, land rents, and others. 2. The non-tax revenue, that is the sales tax, now the non-tax revenue, is estimated at 4.994 billion ringgit, or about 50%, mainly derived from the following major sources. 1. A. 1.883 billion ringgit from 5% cash compensation in lieu of oil and gas rights or royalty on oil and gas. B. 1.8 billion ringgit from dividend income. C. 822 million ringgit from interest income. D. 250 million ringgit from land premium. E. 120 million from cash compensation in lieu of import and excise duties on petroleum products, and F, 119 million from others including licenses, service fees, permits and rentals. 3. The non-revenue receipt, which is expected to be 16 million ringgit, mainly from forest liquidated damages, disposal of asset and forest compounds, and 4. Federal grants and reimbursement is expected to be at 260 million ringgit. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, now the ordinary expenditure for 2021. Under the ordinary expenditure, a sum of 9.832 billion ringgit is proposed for 2021. Out of this, 3.832 billion ringgit is for operating expenditure, while a sum of 6 billion ringgit is proposed to be appropriated to development fund account to finance the implementation of various development programs and projects. The proposed operating expenditure of 3.832 billion ringgit in 2021 consists of the following. 1. 874 million ringgit or 23% for personnel emoluments. 2. 1.269 billion ringgit or 33% for supplies and services. 3. 1.295 billion or 34% for grants and fixed payment, which include operating grant to statutory bodies and local authorities, servicing of public debts, and payments of gratuities, pensions, scholarship, including financial and welfare assistance under BKSS, for 73 million ringgit for the procurement of assets, and 331 million ringgit for other operating expenses. The development expenditure 2021. A sum of 6.304 billion ringgit is proposed under the development expenditure estimate for 2021 to finance various programs and projects. This estimate has taken into consideration, among others, 1. Commitment to complete the implementation of the ongoing projects from the 11th National Plan, capacity to implement projects during the year, and 3. Implementation of catalytic, high-impact and people-centric projects. Budget surplus 2021. I am pleased to inform this August House that with the estimated revenue of 10.012 billion ringgit and the total proposed ordinary expenditure of 9.832 billion ringgit, the proposed 2021 budget is expected to generate a surplus of 180 million ringgit. State Alternative Funding Initiative. As the state aspires to attain high-income economy by 2030, substantial amount of funding is required to spur the growth of the state economy. Apart from diversifying our revenue resources through revenue re-engineering, we will continue to leverage on state alternative funding initiative to complement the state development budget agenda. This is necessary to fund major infrastructure projects such as roads and bridges, provision of water and electricity supply, telecommunication and digital economy project. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, strategic thrust and initiative under 2021 budget. Various immediate and multi-pronged measures have been introduced, while more robust medium and long-term measures will be implemented to address the economic and social challenges brought about by the pandemic, paving way for economic recovery in 2021 and beyond. The strategic thrust 1 is number 1 strategic thrust, steering economic recovery. Development and rural bias budget. The 2021 state budget will continue to be a development bias budget, which focuses on people-centric projects aimed at accelerating the economic activities, of which 6.304 billion ringgit or 62% of the state budget will be allocated for development expenditure. The state will continue to hasten the development in rural areas in order to bridge the development gap between the urban and rural areas. For this purpose, a sum of 4.251 billion ringgit or 67% of the total development expenditure will be set aside for the implementation of programs and projects in the rural areas, while the remaining 2.053 billion or 33% is for urban areas. I shall now highlight specific initiative, project and programs which would have a transformative impact on our economy and the lives and welfare of our people. Among the projects, including those funded under State Alternative Funding Initiative, are as follows. 1. 1.152 billion ringgit for coastal road network. 2. 1.687 billion ringgit for various projects under RECODA. 3. 494 million ringgit for second trunk road. 4. 792 million ringgit for project under Integrated Regional Samarahan Development Agency, IRSDA. 5. 430 million ringgit for construction of the Lawas Lembang Road. 6. 500 million ringgit for implementation of Project Rakyat. 7. 400 million ringgit for Rural Transformation Project RTP. And 8. 235 million ringgit for minor rural projects MRP. The implementation of all these projects would enable the rakyat to enjoy better public amenities and infrastructures that would ultimately help to improve their standard of living. Furthermore, this project creates multiplier effects to the local economy, generating thousands of job opportunities for the local folks and boosting the construction and services sector. Strategic initiative number 2, improving connectivity and accessibility. Connectivity and accessibility are two critical elements to spur economic growth and development. Improving connectivity and accessibility means more roads, bridges, water, and air transport would need to be put in place to create economic vibrancy in the surrounding areas, improving livability and mobility of local communities, as well as creating business and employment opportunities. A total sum of 5.939 billion ringgit will be allocated next year, both via state budget and alternative funding initiative to implement various projects under the transport subsector, such as roads and bridges, ports, airport, and other modes of transport. 1. Major roads and bridges projects. Road infrastructure development, including bridges, has always been given a priority by the state government as we strive to connect all areas in Sarawak. Under the 2021 state budget, a total sum of 1.273 billion ringgit will be provided for the implementation of various road and bridges projects such as 1. upgrading of 5 roundabouts along Kuching-Samarahan Expressway. 2. Propose construction of road from Kampung Bako to Kampung Buntal, Kuching. 3. Propose Jalan Nanga Ibau, Uli Sungai Ibau, Kapit. 4. Propose Jalan Sungai Bidut, Kampung Tutus, Kampung Sebedil, Kampung Bungan Kecil, Sibu. 5. Propose road to Rumah Panjang Nicholas Anak Sandom, Sungai Siguk Pandan, Sebauh, Bintulu. 6. Propose Marudi Bridge over Batang Bara, Miri. 7. Propose Sungai Limbang Bridge, Sungai Bunut Number 2 Bridge and connecting roads, Limbang. 8. Construction of Rantau Panjang, Rasau Road, Batang Igan, Phase 1, Mukah. 9. Propose Nangga Kesit, Ulu Lamana, Engkari Road, Lubuk Antu, Sri Aman. And 10. Jalan Tanjung Manis, Sibu Sebena and Ilas Serike. On top of this, the state government is vigorously implementing a number of high-impact projects such as Coastal Road Network and Second Trunk Road projects. 2. Port development. As the landscape of the shipping industry is ever-changing, the safety of the access channel to our state port is essential in meeting our future logistic demand. In this regard, the installation of aids to navigation or ATONs for the Batang Rajang access channel to Tanjung Manis Port will be provided with an allocation of 25 million ringgit for continuation and completion of the project in 2021. ATONs are basic infrastructure that will enhance the navigational safety and security of our Sarawak ports. 3. Seamless transportation. Transport infrastructure acts as a key enabler to ensure seamless mobility and connectivity to all growth areas in the state. Thus, the State Integrated Transportation Master Plan up to 2050 will be formulated to chart the policy direction, plan, strategies, and initiatives for the sector. One of the major initiatives is the development of Kuching Urban Transport System, or KUTS, for the autonomous rapid transit ART to address traffic congestion in Kuching Samarahan areas, at the same time promote efficient and sustainable transport system. For this purpose, a sum of 384 million ringgit will be allocated next year for its implementation. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, Strategic Initiative Number 3, Intensifying State Industrialization Program. The state will continue to place greater emphasis on securing more quality investment, both foreign and domestic, as well as enhancing trade by penetrating global market to boost up economic growth. Effort to diversify our industry sector will be intensified through deepening and strengthening the value chain in oil and gas, energy intensive, high-tech, food, and shipbuilding, alongside the traditional timber-based, oil palm-based, and other manufacturing activities. Under the 2021 budget, a sum of 140.3 million ringgit will be provided to implement the following initiative. 1. Industrial estate. The state government will continue to develop industrial parks and business premises to attract both foreign direct investment FDI and domestic direct investment DDI. In this regard, a sum of 88.3 million will be provided to implement, among others, the following projects. 1. Expansion of the Mat Laut Industrial Park. 2. Samalaju SME Cluster. And 3, industrial estate in Sibu, Sematan, Betong, Seri Aman, Bau, Marudi, and Ratau Panjang, Sibu. 2, entrepreneurship development program. The state government fully recognizes the difficulties and challenges faced by our entrepreneurs, especially those from the small, medium, and micro enterprises. In tandem with this, the state government has implemented various initiatives which include the following. 1, innovation hubs. Currently, there are 7 operating innovation hubs. They provide mentorship, support, guidance, and innovation-focused entrepreneurial program to Sarawakian startups and SMEs across the state. These facilities have benefited more than 50,000 entrepreneurs and innovators from students to adults. This initiative would require a sum of 18 million ringgit. B, SME and other entrepreneurship program. The state government will continue to encourage more people to venture into business activities, and this will not only help to uplift their socio-economic well-being, but also spur the growth of the local economy. With an allocation of 11 million ringgit in 2020, various entrepreneurship programs are being implemented that benefit more than 12,500 entrepreneurs. The state government will also implement SME digitalization packages to assist the local enterprises to become more competitive while operating in the new normal and today's challenging business environment. A total of 10 million ringgit is proposed next year for the implementation of the program that will benefit more than 1,000 entrepreneurs. Anjung Usahawan, C. From the entrepreneurship skill program, the state also continues to construct new Anjung Usahawan in other parts of Sarawak, including Teluk Melano in Lundu, Gedong, Limbang, and Lawas. Anjung Usahawan is a one-stop center that serves as a platform for budding entrepreneurs to develop and thrive. A sum of 19.2 million ringgit will be provided next year for this purpose. D, supporting the recovery of businesses and SMEs. In facilitating the recovery of businesses and SMEs that have been severely hit by the pandemic, the following measures will be continued to be implemented. 1, Sarawak Micro Credit Scheme that will provide financial assistance to entrepreneurs for their business expansion and diversification. This initiative has been implemented beginning this year with an allocation of 37 million ringgit. Under the 2021 budget, another 50 million ringgit will be provided for this purpose. 2, Special Relief Fund Interest Subsidy Scheme, where the SMEs will enjoy interest-free loans over 3.5 years. This year, a sum of 17.3 million is expected to be disbursed to the participating banks, while under the 2021 budget, 19 million ringgit more will be allocated. This scheme is expected to benefit more than 40,000 SMEs throughout Sarawak. 3, deferment of loan repayment for scheme pinjaman industri kecil dan sederhana SPIK has also been implemented to ease the SME cash flow and lessen their financial burden. This measure will benefit 144 borrowers of SPIK. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, strategic initiative number 4, accelerating score development. With the formation of the 3 development agencies under Rekoda, namely Upper Rajang Development Agency (ORDA), Highland Development Agency (HDA), and Northern Region Development Agency (NRDA), the state government has approved the implementation of over 250 infrastructure and socio-economic projects, including roads and bridges, water and electricity supply, improvement and repair of dilapidated schools. To date, 86 projects amounting to 1.7 billion ringgit have been awarded, while the remaining project worth 2.8 billion ringgit will soon be awarded. Hence, to meet the contractual obligation next year, a sum of 1.687 billion ringgit will be required. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, Strategic Initiative number 5, boosting tourism sector. Over the last 10 years, the state tourism industry has grown significantly, both in terms of visitor arrivals as well as its contribution to the growth of the state economy. However, the COVID-19 pandemic, coupled with the movement restriction, has caused a sharp decline in travel and leisure activities. The state will continue to provide allocation to develop new tourism attractions and upgrade the existing one, which are as follows. 1. SARAWAK Culture Museum in Kuching. 2. Santubong Ecological Park and Wallace Center. 3. Cascading Waterfall at Fort Margrethe. 4. Upgrading of wind caves and ferry caves. 5. Upgrading of forts, including Fort Emma, Fort Lily, Fort Brooke, Fort Sevilla. 6. Transformation of Brooke Dockyard into Maritime Museum. 7. Performing Arts Center at our old Dune building. And 8. Sadong Jaya Mangrove Tourism. Under the 2021 budget, a total sum of 252 million ringgit will be allocated to Ministry of Tourism, Art and Culture to carry out various tourism programs, including marketing and promotion, bidding for business event, festival and event, as well as tourism infrastructure development. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, Strategic Thrust 2, securing the people's welfare. Strategic Initiative number 1, creating a livable environment, providing affordable housing. The state government is committed to provide shelter and improve the well-being of the rakyat through provision of quality and affordable houses with well-developed amenities. A sum of 93 million ringgit will be provided under this budget for the implementation of various affordable housing projects, which include Rumah Mampu Milik at Darul Hana, Kuching, and Rumah Spektra Permata in Kuching, Sibu, Mukah, Betong, and Miri. 2. Kampung Extension and Resettlement Scheme. Kampung Extension and Resettlement Scheme were introduced to relieve congestion in the existing settlement or traditional kampung by providing well-balanced residential lot with infrastructure to households from low-income group. For 2021, a sum of 36.5 million will be allocated under this budget to continue with this noble initiative as part of the GBS government continuous effort in poverty alleviation and uplifting livelihood of the rakyat. 3. End financing for affordable housing and long houses. To address the end financing problem faced by house buyers from low-income B40 and middle-income M40 group, Mutiara Mortgage and Credit Siaran Berhad has been established to provide soft loans to eligible house buyers. Currently, the loan is confined to public housing projects implemented by HDC. To date, Mutiara Mortgage has disbursed a total of 37 million ringgit to 865 successful applicants. For 2021, a sum of 50 million will be made available by Mutiara Mortgage for this purpose. Apart from that, the state government is also implementing long house loan scheme, where an interest-free loan is given to the longhouse dwellers for repair of their units or building new longhouses. In 2020, the state government has allocated a sum of 50 million which benefit 1,667 longhouse dwellers. This scheme will be continued next year with an additional allocation of 50 million ringgit. Four, program pembaikan rumah rakyat miskin. This program was introduced in 2018, aimed at assisting the B40 group to repair their dilapidated houses to enable them to have a decent home. For 2021, a sum of 80 million ringgit will be allocated for continuation of this program. Sarawak Rental Assistance Scheme. Datuk Ahmad Speaker, this is a new one, a new scheme to help the poor. To assist working low-income group in reducing cost of living and mitigate urban poverty, especially in urban areas, my administration will introduce a new scheme called Sarawak Rental Assistance Scheme next year. Under this scheme, eligible applicants from the low-income group will receive a rental assistance of 200 ringgit per month for up to a maximum of 36 months or 3 years. A sum of 48 million ringgit will be set aside under this budget, and that will benefit about 20,000 eligible households. Those are renting especially in highly populated areas like Kuching, Bintulu, and even Cebu and Miri. They are renting houses because they are working there in the various companies, and they need assistance to pay off their rental scheme, and we are providing 200 ringgit for them. 6. Urban Renewal Program. In our effort to address urban-related issues and overcome overcrowded settlement, the state government has been implementing urban renewal program. For 2021, an allocation of 390 million ringgit will be provided for the implementation of urban renewal project, which include 1. Darul Hana Redevelopment Project, 2. Sungai Berdaun Redevelopment Project, 3. Kampung Tabuan Melayu Redevelopment Project, 4. Infrastructure work at Komunyang, Cebu, 5. Infrastructure work at Kampung Jepak, Bintulu, 6. Infrastructure work at Kampung Baru, Samarahan, 7. Infrastructure work at Kampung Segeduk Maung, Kuching, and 8. Infrastructure work at Kampung Sepauh, Betong. Kuching City Local Plan 2030 study. The government is undertaking the Kuching City Local Plan 2030 study that will provide an overall physical land use development direction through zoning plan and use class order as a guide for a holistic and sustainable urban development for the city. A sum of 2 million ringgit will be allocated next year for this purpose. Datuk Ahmad Speaker, Strategic Initiative Number 2, expanding coverage of treated water supply and electricity supply. Water Supply Program. Expanding the coverage of treated water supply has always been the top priority of the state government to accelerate development in the rural areas. Efforts to provide reliable, efficient, resilient, safe and sustainable water supply will be intensified with the implementation of various projects such as 1. Pipeline for Darul Hana project, 2. Upgrading of Berawan water treatment plant, 3. High-level tank at Balai Ruai, Saratok, 4. Long Lama water supply phase 3, and 5. Suai water treatment plant raw water intake. For this purpose, a sum of 85.27 million ringgit will be provided under this budget. Another initiative is the implementation of Sarawak Water Supply Grid Program for stress area, of which a sum of 1.710 billion ringgit will be provided under State Alternative Funding Initiative 2021. 2. Electricity Supply Program. The state government goal is to light up all corners of Sarawak, with various electricity programs are being implemented to resolve immediate issues of service delivery and coverage. In this connection, a sum of 1.398 billion ringgit will be provided next year for Rural Electrification Scheme, RES, under the State Alternative Funding Initiative. Assistance is also given to the rural community for connection of electricity to their houses via Additional Late Applicant Fund, ALAF, and Assisted Wiring Scheme, AWS. As I have announced last year in my budget speech, the urban household will also be assisted for connection of electricity to their houses via Connection Charges Government Financial Assistance, CCGFA. This program will be continued next year with an allocation of 2.3 million ringgit under this budget. Dato' Amar Speaker, Strategic Thrust 3, ensuring food security and transformation of agriculture production. In Strategic Initiative Number 1, Agriculture Transformation, we aspire to develop the state agriculture sector into a technology-driven and competitive sector, ensuring food security and safety, and creating wealth for our farming community. In this regard, a sum of 1.123 billion ringgit will be allocated next year to implement various programs such as 1. Establishment of Agro Park at Sungai Baji, Sarike, and Sadong Jaya, Samarahan. 2. Establishment of Agro-based Industry Incubator at Southern and Northern regions. 3. Establishment of pig farming area in Semunjan, Selangau, and Samarakan. 4. Agro-food development program. 5. Commodity crop development program. And 6. Drainage and irrigation projects. Strategic Initiative 2, Food Security. Efforts will be intensified to increase the self-sufficient level of rice from 51% to 70% by 2030 through upgrading and rehabilitating of drainage and irrigation. This is necessary to enable farm mechanization, precision farming practices, and to plant paddy for 2 seasons a year that will boost paddy production and productivity. To increase the supply of beef, buffalo, and goat meat to meet the growing domestic demand, a sum of 13.5 million ringgit will be allocated in 2021 state budget to procure cattle, buffalo, and goat breeder stock to strengthen the ruminant integration with oil palm plantation program toward achieving a target of producing 150,000 heads of cattle by 2025. Strategic Initiative 3, Growing Rural Economy. 1. Agriculture Facilitation Fund, AFF. The program was introduced this year to finance various income diversification initiatives, provision of equipment and infrastructure support, and other agriculture-related activities. It is providing facilitation fund as an incentive to rural entrepreneurs, small traders, and farmers for their involvement in agriculture projects. To date, a sum of 265 million ringgit has been allocated for the program, and its implementation will be continued next year. Rural Growth Center. To create economic vibrancy in the rural areas, infrastructure development will continue to be carried out. In this connection, a total sum of 41.3 million will be allocated under this budget for the completion of infrastructure project at Rural Growth Center in Opar, Bladin, and Semop. Special assistance scheme to fishermen and farmers. As a government, that gives top priority to the welfare of the rakyat and empathize with their plight, we have made available a sum of 29 million in 2021 to assist fishermen in cushioning the impact of inactivity during the Landas season. We have also decided to extend the assistance to farmers in Sarawak who are involved in the cultivation of oil palm and pepper commodity on a small-scale farm. We understand that their livelihood has been adversely affected in recent months due to commodities price fluctuation, compounded by the rising cost of fertilizers and agrochemical, as these commodities are their major source of income. Therefore, a sum of 60 million ringgit will be provided in this budget that is expected to benefit 75,000 farmers. Sarawak Reef Ball Project. Sarawak Reef Ball Project is another initiative undertaken by the state government to increase the income of the local fishermen. This project involved deployment of 16,800 units reef ball along approximately 1,000 kilometer coastal waters of Sarawak, stretching from Tanjung Datuk from Samatan district to Lawas. By end of 2020, a total of 9,300 units reef ball will be deployed, while the remaining 7,500 units will be deployed next year, involving a sum of 23 million ringgit. Datuk Ahmad Speaker, Strategic Trust for Strengthening Social Security. In the effort to ensure sustainable social protection for the rakyat, especially the vulnerable groups, the state government will continue to strengthen its social protection program through the implementation of the various initiatives. For 2021, the state government shall implement new initiatives as follows. 1. Suri Voluntary Contribution Intensive Scheme, or iSuri. This initiative is to provide a financial safety net to housewives, single mothers, and single women at the age below 60 and registered in the e-Kasih system. iSuri members will be entitled for an annual grant from the federal government amounting to 480 ringgit. Apart from this, they will also entitled to receive annual dividend, disabilities, assistance, and death benefit. Under this scheme, the state government will assist the eligible recipient to contribute 60 ringgit annually to each EPF iSuri account. For this purpose, a sum of 4.2 million will be set aside in 2021 state budget that will benefit 70,000 housewives. Low-income household empowering program, eLife. This program will be introduced in 2021 to empower the poor to increase their income through small business ventures by providing starter kits and materials as well as entrepreneurship skill. The target group includes the poor and welfare recipient or family members to enable them to be financially independent. In 2021, an allocation of 10 million ringgit will be provided to implement this program. State health insurance for e-Kasih recipient. This initiative will provide health insurance coverage for Sarawakians aged 18 years and below from e-Kasih household members who are not covered under My Salam scheme of the federal government. This initiative will provide equal opportunities to all low-income households to enjoy quality healthcare service without incurring high out-of-pocket healthcare expenses. A sum of 400 ringgit per year for primary healthcare will be given to about 12,500 eligible recipients next year. A sum of 5 million ringgit will be allocated for the scheme under this budget. On top of this, the state government will continue implementing the following ongoing initiatives. Among them are: 1. Annual welfare assistance of 57 million ringgit for various welfare aids such as bantuan AM, bantuan orang kelainan upaya OKU, and bantuan warga emas. 57 million ringgit for them from the state government. 2. Endowment Fund Sarawak EPS of 26 million that will benefit about 26,000 Sarawakian newborn. We are the only state, Dato' Ahmad Speaker, that give cash incentive to newborn. Keluar saja 1,000. Buat satu lagi, keluar 1,000. Number 3, postnatal care assistance of 16 million ringgit that will benefit about 36,000 mothers. As long as they deliver baby, waktu pantang 3 bulan, we are giving them assistance of 450 ringgit, irrespective of their political affiliation. We are fair. Number 4, free school bus program of 2.6 million for extension of the services to other major towns such as Cebu, Bintulu, and Miri. We are giving school children free bus for them to go to school. 5. Operating grant of 1.71 million for the operation of One-Stop Early Intervention Center, OSEIC, that will provide diagnosis, intervention, and support services to children with special needs such as autism, Down syndrome, and learning disabilities aged below 7 years old. Hemodialysis assistance of 3.24 million for Sarawakian kidney patients who need treatment for hemodialysis, continuous ambulatory peritoneal dialysis, CAPD, I do know this, I have to ask Dr. Anwar or Dr. Sim, and transplant. 7. Kenyalang Gold Card of 12 million ringgit to assist local senior citizens aged 60 and above. This initiative provides facilities in the form of discount, rebates, and other facilities from various organizations and commercial entities. Besides that, the eligible KGC holders will also entitle for compassionate allowances, bantuan ihsan kematian of 3,000 ringgit. GPS government is kasih bond, akhir dia mati pun kita kasih 3,000. 8. Fire relief assistance, bantuan wang ihsan kebakaran of 55 million ringgit is set aside to fire victim as financial assistance to repair and rebuild burned houses, which is not covered by fire insurance. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, Strategy 5, Advancing Digital Economy. The state government is committed to spearhead the digital economy initiative and to optimize the potential of digital technology and digitalization to leapfrog the state towards a high-income economy by 2030. The initiative will continue to be implemented next year with an allocation of 540 million ringgit. Digital connectivity. In accelerating digitalization of the economy, provision of good digital infrastructure is critical to boost the growth in businesses, creating greater economic opportunities, opening up the local economy, as well as strengthening digital connection with the rest of the world. This initiative, among others, are 1. Enhancing digital connectivity in the rural areas by providing free internet connection via Sarawak Net infrastructure, VSAT technology, with a capacity between 20 Mbps to 30 Mbps bandwidth per site, with an allocation of 16.5 million ringgit. And 2. Construction of telecommunication towers throughout Sarawak, especially in the remote areas. To date, 300 towers have been constructed and at various stages of implementation, while another 300 towers will kickstart next year. Strategic initiative 2, embarking on smart technology. The state government will aggressively embark on smart technologies that will allow full exploitation of the digital revolution while minimizing job dislocation. Among the initiatives being planned and implemented are 1. Smart agriculture. Based on the encouraging success of Taman Kekal Pengeluaran Makanan Rampangi, the state government will replicate the IoT technologies to other agriculture stations such as Agriculture Research Centre, Agriculture Institute, Northern Region Agriculture Research Centre Kebuloh, ATC Oya and ATC Kabung. 2. Sarawak Pay in Fintech. The Sarawak Pay e-wallet has become a mainstream mode of payment in Sarawak with registered users of more than 453,000 in 2020. During the COVID-19 pandemic, financial assistance to about 65,000 hawkers and petty traders was paid through Sarawak Pay. The usage of Sarawak Pay services will be extended to enable users to have more choices that include implementation of smart parking platform, telecommunication reload services, digital banking like microfinancing, B2B payment, and interoperable with affiliated partner e-wallet. Sarawak Integrated Operation Centre, SIOC. The state government will also be embarking on the implementation of SIOC, which envisaged as the brain of the smart city that links smart application and system to support decision making. SIOC will enable central agencies to monitor any situation in real time, give accurate and timely inputs, getting reports and feedbacks from the public regarding incident, outbreak, disaster, complaint, etc. The project, which has commenced this year, will be implemented in phases. Smart traffic light. The state government is also embarking on smart traffic light, aims to reduce traffic congestion and travel time, increase road safety, and provide data for further transportation improvement. The upgrading of the existing 42 traffic light junction in Kuching has shown reduction of time travel by at least 15%. This program will be continued to equip other major cities in Sarawak with similar system. Dato' Amar Speaker, Human Capital Development Strategic Trust 6. Our education and human capital development strategies must be able to produce talented and agile workforce that are capable of driving the state vision and generate economic prosperity. The key initiative that contributes significantly to the enhancement of quality of education in state, among others, are 1. Safe and conducive teaching and learning environment. The state government is committed to address the issue of dilapidated school as part of the state education agenda. With the 1 billion allocation, more than 140 schools will be upgraded or rebuilt. In addition, the state government will also provide funding amounting to 83.3 million ringgit for the construction and completion of SK Agama Kuching No. 2, SK Ulu Segan Bintulu, SK Maludam Betong, SK Mapati Jepang, SK Pulau Kuching, and SK Penasuk Daro Mukah. Apart from the school construction, the state will also allocate 10 million ringgit under this budget to provide reliable electricity from public grid to 110 schools in the rural areas. Enhancing quality of education as a strategic effort to enhance the scientific and technological capability of our students in future, we have embarked on teaching of mathematics and science subject in English in all government schools in Sarawak. Under this initiative, the state government has allocated a sum of 5.2 million ringgit this year to provide 1,265 primary schools in the state with STEM resources in English. For next year, another 15 million ringgit will be provided for continuation of this program. For furtherance of studies at renowned universities, the state, through Yayasan Sarawak, provides assistance to qualified students to study in the 4 top universities, namely Cambridge University, London School of Economics, Oxford University, and Stanford University. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, early childhood development. The state government recognizes early education is vital for mental and physical development of our children. In this regard, we will continue with the implementation of early childhood and care institution program with an allocation of 16 million ringgit to provided in 2021. On top of this, a sum of 18 million ringgit will be provided in 2021 for the operation of 86 kindergartens and child care centers under CDDEC Siaran Langsung. Sarawak Science Center, the state government has embarked on the establishment of Sarawak Science Center that will further enhance the state human capital development. This center will provide an avenue for public engagement among students, teachers, and the public at large towards creating greater interest in STEM. The preliminary works for the project has started this year, and the construction is expected to commence next year. Sarawak International School. Sarawak First International School will be located at 12 Mile, Jalan Kuching Siran, which will begin construction in 2021. The school will incorporate the Cambridge International General Certificate of Secondary Education, ICGSE, and targeting the students from the B40 and M40 groups. A sum of 20 million ringgit is proposed next year to kickstart the implementation of the project. School voucher for tuition fees. In tandem with the government objective to create greater pool of high-performance students, including those from low-income group, I am pleased to announce that the state government will provide 10 million ringgit next year in the form of school vouchers to assist in funding the student tuition fees. The assistance is up to a maximum of 150 ringgit per month or 1,800 per year per secondary student. This initiative is expected to benefit about 5,600 secondary students and will be coordinated by Yayasan Sarawak. Enhancing quality of human capital. Human capital enhancement is important as it acts as a main catalyst for the state to continue to develop in line with the notion of Industry 4.0. Numerous skill development programs are being introduced to empower locals so that they can contribute more to the growth of the economy and ultimately improve their socio-economic status. The program include 1. Digital talent that focuses on enhancing development of digital talent among our young workforce. This program will provide opportunities to the job seekers, especially those affected by the global pandemic, to upskill, reskill, and retool themselves with digital skill. This will be carried out by Sarawak Digital Corporation SDEC and Centec. 2. Graduate Enhancement Training Sarawak 4.0 program. This is a 12-month on-the-job training internship to graduates to acquire industry-relevant skill and enhance employability. An allocation of 7.6 million ringgit will be provided next year and will benefit about 400 graduates. 3. Greater promotion of technical and vocational education. The state government will intensify effort to develop highly trained technical workforce to meet the demand from the industries such as oil and gas, electrical and mechanical industries, and many more. Under the 11 Measure Plan, the state has allocated 261 million to enhance as well as establish new branches of Centec, namely in Kuching, Lundu, Betung, Dalat, and Lawas. This effort will be continued where a sum of 67 million will be made available next year. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, promoting environmental sustainability, Strategic Trust 7. The state government will continue its effort in strengthening sustainable forest management practices in the state. Towards this, 13.62 million ringgit will be allocated next year for the implementation of various projects such as follows. 1. Forest landscape restoration program throughout Sarawak. 2. Establishment of Center of Sealant for Planted Forest, R&D. 3. Establishment of Semenggong Rainforest Discovery Center. And 4. Research for intensified management of bio-rich areas, RIMBA, of Sarawak. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, enhancing government service delivery, Trust 8. The state government will continue its effort in strengthening sustainable forest management practices in the state. Strategic Trust 8 enhanced government service delivery. The state government has in 2018 implemented Service Sarawak to realize the concept of one government at your service anytime and anywhere. To date, we have operationalized Service Sarawak Center at UTC Kuching, Sibu, and Miri, where more than 700,000 customers had been served. Service Sarawak Center will be expanded in Sri Aman, and Siaran Division expected to be operationalized by the middle of 2021. Enhancement of government ICT efforts towards providing excellent service delivery will also be intensively pursued through digitalization and system enhancement, of which 7.1 million ringgit will be allocated in 2021 for the continuation of government digitalization project. Capacity building of the state civil service. The state government will continue its effort on leadership development program to enhance talent development in the state civil service to help cultivate shared values and high performance culture among civil servants and harness their skill to deliver excellent services. Thus, a sum of 4.7 million ringgit will be provided in this budget to undertake this initiative. Revenue re-engineering, Dato' Ahmad Speaker. The state government will continue to expand and diversify the state revenue stream through revenue re-engineering. This effort is even more crucial amidst the current economic slowdown, where the bulk of our revenue comes from community-based source. One of the measures under this exercise is to review the rate of rental for renting of state government properties. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, I would like to take this opportunity to thank the federal government for allocating a sum of 4.5 billion in the 2021 federal budget to the state. Among others, to improve infrastructure, health, and education facilities, and for native customary right land perimeter survey. This was not in the last under PH government. It was not there. This allocation will help us to further accelerate the development in Sarawak. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, I am honored to mention here that the state 2019 financial account has earned the state a clean bill of health for the 18 consecutive years. This is a clear indication of the state continuous sound financial management in exercising financial prudence and discipline at all levels. However, we must not be complacent. We must look ahead and we must plan well. We have the sacred responsibility to spend prudently and wisely for the benefits and welfare of the rakyat. With this in mind, I urge all controlling officers of the various ministries, agencies, statutory bodies, and local authorities to continue adopting and exercising good governance and practices, responsible financial management, and on top of all this, inculcate integrity in our everyday life. The state government would prioritize the implementation of development programs and public investment as to ensure the development agenda is met and the benefits are enjoyed by the rakyat. As such, my administration is always emphasizing on the need to ensure value for money and prioritize spending that will warrant savings and cost optimization through the adoption of value management framework in the planning and implementation of development projects. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, now I would like to conclude. In spite of the criticism made against my administration under GPS by certain irresponsible quarters that Sarawak will be bankrupt in 3 years' time, the GPS government has shown that we have been able to manage our financial resources prudently and even increase our revenue. While I accept criticism as part of democracy, it cannot be based on wild and baseless allegations. Sooner or later, the people will know, and the truth will prevail. Therefore, we will not waver in our efforts and continue to work hard for the people and the state. We will always find ways and means to resolve any challenges in the course of performing our duties. The establishment of the State Development Coordination Committee meeting, SDCCM, of which I personally chair, is one of the steps to address and solve problems involving projects on the ground. Come what may, we will defend this government with every strength that we have. Defend it for the people and for the love of our state. Only GPS-led government would fully comprehend the need and aspiration of our people. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, this is what our struggle is all about. A government which all Sarawakians can rely on in whatever situation, and more so in this COVID-19 trying period. My colleagues and I will continue with the state development agenda and give priority to the well-being of the Rakyat. This budget, together with all the rest of the initiative that we have undertaken, is a reflection of our commitment. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, I would like to place on record our immense debt and gratitude to those who have sacrificed and who serve and still serve on the front line. Our healthcare personnel and essential workers, civil servants, volunteers, NGOs, and the media. There has been a lot of hardship and suffering, and we mourn for those who have passed. However, as long as we are united and remain steadfast, we shall overcome this crisis. The battle against COVID-19 will be an arduous task and a long one. Thus, the 2021 budget is a manifestation of our total commitment to steer Sarawak out of this crisis and for us to recover, rebuild, and become stronger. I urge all Sarawakians, whatever their creed, race, and political affiliation, to stay united as one people and work together and ensure we get through this so that we can continue our journey towards building a progressive and prosperous society. Dato' Ahmad Speaker, dengan ini saya memohon mencadangkan agar rang undang-undang ini dibaca bagi kali yang kedua. Terima kasih.
Dato' Ahmad Speaker, I beg to second. Usul untuk merujuk resolusi anggaran pembelanjaan pembangunan bagi tahun 2021 kepada jawatankuasa perbekalan Yang Amat Berhormat Ketua Menteri, Menteri Kewangan dan Perancangan Ekonomi
Menteri Pembangunan Bandar dan Sumber Asli dan Ahli Dewan Undangan Negeri N81.
Dr. Honourable Speaker, I move to move that the following resolution be referred to the Committee of Supply, that this day one resolved to approve the Development Estimate 2021 as contained in the Common Paper number 13 of 2020, laid on the table on 9 November 2020. As presented in Common Paper number 13 of 2020, the total development expenditure for 2021 amounts to 6.304 million ringgit. That means 6,304 million ringgit. Of the total sum of 603.4 million ringgit, earmarked for project expenditure, 6.13 million ringgit will be financed by state funds, while the balance of 168 million will be financed by federal government through reimbursable loans and grants. The sum of 6,304 million as proposed has been allocated on the basis of projected expenditure commitment and requirements for approved development activities during the year. The proposed allocation for the major sectors are as follows. A total of 4,132 million ringgit is allocated under the economic sector for the following programs. 1. 2,353 million ringgit is for commerce and industry, such as state corporate investment, state industrialization and heritage collection, tourism promotion and industry development, conservation and protection of heritage properties. 2. 1,432 million ringgit is for transport, of which include roads, bridges, riverine infrastructure and ports, navigational safety, and for the various project rakyat. 3. 121 million ringgit for agriculture development, such as for crop industry development, agriculture infrastructure, veterinary services, and agriculture research. 4. 90 million ringgit is for energy and public utilities, of which focusing on upgrading and expansion of supplying potable water connectivity, especially to the rural areas, including a sum of 23 million ringgit to Kuching Water Board and 8.6 million to Cebu Water Board. 5. 60 million is for digital economy initiative. 6. 37 million is for environment, such as forest management, forestry research and development, urban drainage and flood mitigation. And 7. 34 million is for feasibility study on state development planning and policy formulation. B. A total of 1,879 million ringgit is allocated under social sector for the following programs. 1. 1,248 million is for the village and community development, mainly for the implementation of various rural transformation project, minor rural project, residential scheme, kampung redevelopment, and rural growth centers. 2. 293 million is for housing development, especially for program penambahbaikan rumah miskin Sarawak, PPRMS, as well as construction of affordable houses under Housing Development Corporation. 3. 245 million is for local authorities and social welfare services, which also includes urban sewerage and waste management, as well as landfill development. 4. 60 million ringgit is for education and training for Sarawakian students, and 5. 28 million for culture, youth and sport, including upgrading of various sport facilities throughout the state. C. A total of 293 million is allocated under general administration sector for building of various government offices, school and residential buildings, as well as implementation of government ICT project. Speaker, I beg to move.
Dato' Mas Speaker, I beg to second.
Ahli-ahli yang berhormat, the debate on the Supply 2021 Bill 2020 stands adjourned until Wednesday, 11 November 2020. The sitting is now adjourned and shall resume at 2:30 p.m.